on, let's go, boy!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a long time since I've done any sort of recaps or whatever because I needed a long break from it. I got to admit, I think COVID is where I kind of got to the point to where I was like, I need a break. I'm tired of doing recaps, and it kind of burned me out, and I just started just watching shows and just leaving it at that and stuff. But it's ironic because there was a lot of people like, hey, you're going to recap The Mandalorian or book? I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I'm just watching it and just taking it in. I don't really care to do weekly recaps on episodes. I don't care, and I find it funny that in the midst of me doing that, like me and Ant, we've been having lively discussions in the group chat about Star Wars, but it's discussions in a way where it's like Twitter is weird. So welcome, so Jim, people, guest here, Anthony. How's it going, sir?
How's it going? Thanks for having me back. It's been a minute.
Twitter is weird because it's like the discussion of Star Wars has gotten to the point where it just got stupid, where it's like that segment of fandom just goes straight to, oh, woke and DEI is why Star Wars is there. But then turn around, I talk to like Ed and other people, and it's just normal conversations of, oh yeah, I like this about this Star Wars show, but I don't like this. And it's just like, oh, so this is what civil conversations is like about Star Wars. I can't even, I don't even get mad. Like, Ed's like, yeah, I didn't like this thing about Star Wars. Like, he has a point. Like, I can't really debate this. Like, points were made. Like, even if I disagree, it's like, he has a point. I can't really debate these things.
I kind of feel like Star Wars fandom has become like American politics in some aspect, where people like are just extreme on any side of like I'm tribal, I wear this red or I wear this blue. It's the weirdest thing. And I think maybe I used to say it started with like some Disney PR type of stuff, but I had to, somebody had to check me back when the prequels came out, when the George Lucas ruined my childhood type stuff started happening.
That's really what it was. We were all, we experienced that. And even back in the prequels, I was sitting back like, George Lucas didn't rape your childhood. You could just say the movie just wasn't in your wheelhouse, and I will understand that fully. Like, we were all on the same page here. Like, Look, I'm not even going to revise history. I dug Phantom Menace for what they were doing. I'm not even going to act like, I dug Phantom Menace for what they were doing, right? It really started at Attack of the Clones, where I was like, scratching my head, like, where are we going with this? Like, and the fact that the third act of the movie is where it picked up, and you're like, all right, I'm in. Like, it spoke volumes on that movie, and I think everybody universally, for better or worse, we all kind of loved aspects of Revenge of the Sith, particularly when it got to the end. It's like, all right, a little shaky, but it got to where it needed to go. Vader's in the suit, fine. It's stupid, but fine. You put Vader in the suit, cool. So it's like, when we talk about the sequel series, I was like, yeah, this is kind of like the prequel trilogy in terms of the talk and stuff. So I'm not even mad at the talk and stuff. It's the usual, but it felt like it got really nasty for unnecessary reasons, where it's like when me and you talk about like the sequel trilogy, it's like, I think it started when we were talking about The Last Jedi, right? And I think you had mentioned your issues with Last Jedi, and I was sitting back like, yeah, I got some points. I can't really debate it. He got a point.
Well, and I appreciate that, but I also think like you also have people that kind of go to the other issue of like everything is the worst thing ever. Of all time, and it's kind of like I lived through the prequels where, and also I'm an old school sci-fi fan, right? So I'm a big Trekkie too, and like we
lived through bad Star Trek stuff. We lived through it.
I lived through bad Star
Enterprise
Trek
is a thing.
Yeah, that opening song is a thing, and also we've had to do some stuff. Well, like this makes sense because probably in the background, we all had our whole headcanon and theories on forums that you make it make sense. We lived
through the Next Generation movies.
Yeah.
Look. First Contact is the high point of the Next Generation movies, and after that, it just goes.
really bad. Then you get to Nemesis, and it's like, what was this?
What happened here? Whoa!
You know where Nemesis didn't give a they didn't give a fuck is they showed a picture of Captain Picard as a cadet, and they made the cadet bald in the picture, like the best.
No sense. I'm like,
who approved this?
Did you try? Did you try? Like, so that's yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
No, I was just saying. So bad sci-fi, even among great sci-fi, has always been a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's where you can't have a civil conversation. Where I've seen people go, I love this, and they automatically get attacked as like, oh, you're well, they say woke, but they mean like mainstream woke, not like woke where I started. And it's like, oh, you're woke. They just said they like the character. They're allowed to like a character. I love plenty of bad movies. I'm allowed to like plenty of bad movies. You know what I mean? I like The Warriors of Virtue. I have seen that panned and everything like that.
The fact that you like that movie,
Hey, is it a good movie? No, but not at all. But I like it. You're allowed to do that. But at the same token, I've seen people go like, well, that doesn't make sense for the story. And it's like, oh, you hate all what I just said. I had someone accuse me because I forget what it was. It was something. And I said, well, I don't think that actually makes sense. And I think for mental health reasons like that, he's like, you hate mental health and you hate black men. I'm a black male therapist.
Like with Star Wars. So here's my thing with Star Wars. I had a theory here. Okay. I feel a lot of people, majority of folks that have gripes with this new Star Wars, I feel it's particularly when because we're talking about the Acolyte, but it's also kind of going to go into Star Wars in general at this moment. I think people don't like when something that they love has a bit of a twist to it that kind of throws them off. Because if you think about the original trilogy, right? What did we know of the dark and light side? Dark was bad, light was good, and that was it. Like, we didn't have no preconceived notions of the Jedi other than we saw Obi-Wan and him in a way lying to Luke about his dad's death, but we understood why when he sat there and said, well, technically your dad died in a certain way. And it's like, but you lied to him, but you understood because he was trying to protect Luke. Fine, right? But we only knew of the Jedi as just good and the Sith was bad. And in the prequel trilogy, the one thing that I love, and even the Clone Wars cartoon did a really good job of expanding on it, the Jedi isn't really cut and dry good as we know them. Like, they're good, but there is stuff with them that makes them have a measure of blind spots, and their sort of mentality is very questionable. We saw it with how they treated Ahsoka when she got accused of murder and she didn't do it, and they really were just like, no, you did it, you're going to jail. He's like, whoa, I didn't do it, due process. And they're like, nah, you did it, and then they felt some way, which is funny to me how they really were like, she sat there and told him, I'm not coming back to the Jedi Order. And they was like, why not? And I'm like, You just accused her. What do you think she was going to do? She's going to be like, oh, that's cool, we're good.
That was a great scene because they're like, "Oh, you're innocent. All's resolved." And she was like, "You host,
you hold me for like 3 episodes. No, I'm not coming back.
Y'all hounded me like a dog.
I'm not coming back. Fuck you.
Nah. Andy, you good, but I
good, but rest, fuck you. Like, So it's like, I think people don't like the aspect of there being a wrinkle in the Jedi Order, and also even with the Sith, there's a measure of wrinkling because people forget, like, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, the Sith is more or less a response to the Jedi. In the grand scheme, it is. It's like the Sith kind of don't agree with how the Jedi maneuver, so they're just like, no, we're just going to do our own thing, and it kind of begets their whole fucked up organization where it's like, oh, this person's got too much power, we're gonna kill them off. And it's like, damn, like.
So it's reactionary. So, and this is a whole thing. I was thinking about this a little bit earlier today. Is because like some people, like, I do think about the Roman Empire once a week, but I also think about Star Wars like twice a week. So, and George Lucas is a Zen Buddhist, and he had these whole principles set up for the Jedi, right? And there's a book, Mace Windu's book, during the Clone Wars. He talks about how they're not supposed to have, when they say the Jedi are supposed to love, it's talking about attachment in Buddhism, like in that lens of of possessing, right? Because possessing leads to want, and if you have somebody who has great power, wanting stuff, when's enough? When do you fill that hole?
Yeah.
And Mace Windu admits that he loves the Republic, right? He loves the Republic, the freedom it stands for, the things like that, and he's not supposed to do that. And I think that what yours was really great in showing in the prequels is that you took philosophy that can be really good, but then you add bureaucracy on top of that, and you're doing things not in the spirit of the law, but of the letter of the law. If that makes sense, right? And like, there's no way. Okay, Anakin's too old to be trained, but we're going to train him. But we're not going to do any other things to handle the special situation that's going on here. And they was doing that. And you even see times where Yoda would say something. Yoda would get outvoted a lot in the Clone Wars and the prequels. And Yoda's like, all right,
Yoda, but we're gonna go in this direction. It's like, damn, like this guy been around for like thousands of years, and y'all just saying fuck him, like
pretty much. And
that man has seen a lot.
And they just kind of ignore it. And again, what I think the perfect thing, and I know we're going to talk about Acolyte, but I think the perfect thing in the prequels that led to their downfall is this philosophy of the Jedi weren't meant to be in the role they're in. So you had the Sith create a situation where a galactic war breaks out, and what did the Jedi do? Do they just let the war go and people suffer, and they
involve themselves in it?
Or they evolve themselves? Now you have a bunch of empathic, telepathic beings involved in a galactic spanning war. Like, that's gonna corrupt people. That's gonna, like, I brought this up there's another chat with the 40K universe versus Star Wars, and it's like, oh yeah, Jedi be powerful, but the 40K universe is really messed up. You're gonna put a bunch of empaths in the 40K universe of like mad suffering and demon gods. Like, that's not gonna end well for a lot of the like the Jedi.
And that's the thing about the Acolyte. So the Acolyte basically takes place like, I think, hundreds of years before.
So like 100 years around.
100 years before, the whole prequel trilogy kicks off and stuff. And the Jedi, just like the Knights of the Old Republic, they're working for the Republic and stuff. And one thing about the Acolyte that I did enjoy was the aspect of them being questioned by the Republic. Like, hey, like, you guys are out here pretty much dictating who can wield power. And that's not really like, is that really good? Like, which, I mean, it's been questioned before, but it's always been questioned by people like Tarkin and stuff, in not in the, most best of intention ways, because Tarkin has his own agenda.
He had a point.
yeah. I mean, which is ironic because that shows why Tarkin was able to reel Vader in and not really be afraid of him, because he's like, yeah, that's cool, you got magic, but you still work for me, so I don't.
Right.
Fuck, like. But no, I did enjoy that aspect, and I did enjoy the aspect of the Jedi kind of overstepping their bounds on things and stuff. Because I did think that, and it was kind of weird that people didn't like that, but I was like, no, that tracks that they one of them at least would overstep their bounds, thinking that they were doing the right thing, even though there wasn't, because they were supposed to just be there to observe. And we end up finding out, like, I keep forgetting the guy's name, but he ends up kind of, in a way, kickstarting the events of the Acolyte as the show keeps going. And the thing about the Acolyte is, I definitely understand why people were kind of feeling iffy about the show after the first 4 episodes, because it is shaky at times. I think a lot of that has to do with the editing, the way they end certain episodes, because it's like, all right, you got something good, and it's like, that's where you ended it? You could have ended it here or something like that. And that in and of itself throws it off, because you're like, that's how you end this episode? Like, it don't feel like an episode how it should end, kind of thing.
It doesn't flow. And if you like watch something like this season, we had Interview the Vampire season 2 and House of the Dragon. All those episodes, yes, those episodes kind of
spoilers. So I saw the Comic-Con trailer for Interview with the Vampire. I was like, oh shit, Lestat's back. Of course he is. I don't know why I thought he was going to be dead.
Of course, in his old sassy bitch way. Like, I can't wait.
He's rock star Lestat right now.
So. But those episodes kind of flow into each other, and I think there was like some hard stops in Acolyte. There were some things that like sometimes I wonder if we blame a lot on the director and the writer of a series, but we never know how many other cooks came in and said, "Hey, we got to have this many episodes." Well, I only have a 6-episode story. No, we need 8. or
That's been the thing with streaming services now, and that's been one of my biggest gripes is that like we should be getting back to like having seasons that's like at least 15 episodes tops at least. And now it's like, oh, they have to be 8 episodes, like Invincible. I think last season was like what, 8 episodes,
something like that. It wasn't even a whole season, right?
And it felt weird because it's like you gave us 4 or 5 episodes, and that was the first half, and I'm like, just give us the whole episode. And I think that plays a part, and it's not just Star Wars. I don't want people to think that it's a lot of streaming shows, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way because people make the excuse, well, if they're short, then they can just get to the point. But I'm like, no, there's something to be said about having a 15-episode season where you had certain standalone episodes that still kind of drove the narrative forward, but you might just get an episode about one character and how they operated. That used to be how TV shows operated. You get like 20 episodes a season, and you get some that were standalone that were different. I mean, hell, even on the CW, like The Flash, right? The first season, if you really go back and rewatch it, there were a couple of standalone episodes in that first season that had nothing to do with the whole thing with Reverse Flash and stuff, and it still worked.
And you got to learn about the characters, and you got to like, oh, I know who Cisco is. So even if I don't see Cisco, even if you give me a whole storyline with Cisco, I know how Cisco operates when the rest of the episode. So I got to know the characters. I got to know the setting, and you could have things breathe. There'd be like 24 episodes of like DS9 or something. You get to know about the character. You get to know about the side and background characters. And I think that's lost on some things. And maybe it's budget concerns, but I think
it's budget.
Huh?
It could be budget because every studio is trying to cut costs in some way, shape, or form.
But some shows back in the day, if you go back and look at it, took place on like 2 sets.
Pretty much. That was a Star Trek set, pretty basically.
Right. I don't know how many times they beamed into that same village with that same fountain and that different sky background, right? But but as sci-fi nerds, we get used to that. You work what you got. If you give me a good story and good characters, I can turn an eye to whatever, like fuzz it up or something, so I don't have to actually see the strings on the background or anything like that. Yeah. And I think that they lose getting to know the characters and getting to care about. And I think that's a thing that didn't translate well in this series. I think you're right. I think it's editing. I think some of the pacing thing. I think the bones of a good story were here.
Like, because like I said, they did a good job of making you understand Soul as a character. I think they did a really good job because they gave you the idea like, hey, this Soul guy is actually pretty dope. He seems like he's a really well-to-do guy. And then as the series progresses, you start understanding like where his head is at, and like, oh, he's the one that really kind of, whether it was accidental or not, he's the reason why everything springboarded and stuff. Like Osha and May, you got to get to know them as characters, and the fact that they actually are similar, and then until you find out they really are just one person, just split. Like the yin yang thing from Jack 10 Adventures, basically, where it's like, oh, one's evil and one's good. All right, cool, that makes sense. And then by the end, they both kind of in a way basically shift sides and stuff in a way, unknowingly in a way. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty interesting and stuff. But then it's like the other characters, it's like, okay, they did pretty good with them, but then everybody else just felt like, oh, you're just there. That's pretty much it. And that's not bad, but at the same time, it's like, give us at least something to them, at least,
So it's the thing of like, you can have a fight scene, and unless it's spectacular and you're just there for the fight, if there's no motive behind the fight, it doesn't hit as hard. Where you could have two people that aren't the best fighters, but they're slugging out for some passion you agree with, and you're like, oh, I understand what you're fighting for, so it means more. I think there were some motivations that were missing from this. I think that, and then I listened to, I might mispronounce her name, and I don't mean to do it on purpose. Leslie Headland, is that her name? I've been listening to her like interviews about what her thoughts of the background of the story were. And I was like, man, I wish this was in the show. Like I wish, like she was saying how that pit they were over when they were praying to the moon, it was to line up the moon and the pit and whatever's under there. Like none of them had force power, so they got there, but then they started learning how to utilize the energy that's underneath that planet and all these other things. I was like, this is the story I want to see. You know what I mean? And
I mean, we
maybe,
got a little bit of it, but like you said, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that makes sense on why the Jedi were there because they were trying to understand why these people were there. And like I said, the show they gave you a vague idea of that happening, and I think they wanted the audience to kind of plug in, like, oh, the audience will figure it out, which, yeah, some of us will figure it out, we know, but then the other people are going to be like, well, what's going on here? Like,
right. And then you have a character like Tommen. I can't remember if I'm saying his Game of Thrones name or his Star Wars days, but Tommen, you tell us they've been there for 7 weeks. And then he's like, why are we here? Wait a minute, you mean you've been here for 7 weeks and y'all never asked, like, why are you here? And like, so
I mean, I get it because, and that's another thing for me. It's like, I guess that tracks because the Jedi would just be like, just do as you're told and don't say shit. But still, at the same time, it's like, you never one time asked, like, why are we here, Master? Like,
what am I searching for? Like what is this metal thing? Again, what does this even do?
I had to piece it together, but the show isn't necessarily like taking the leaps to at least give us something.
And I only say that because if we got more history on what he was dealing with before his whole I need to get home stuff, it would have had more impact. If we got more, like, to me, the show should have been episode 7 should probably be episode 3, and that way we're going like, oh, what happens when Osha finds out that Saul did this, right? Yeah. You have that tension build up. And I think the other part is that if you got to know these characters before they die, it means something. You know what I mean? Like it means, or even if you kill them and then you go back and we get a whole thing about, what the Wookiee Jedi was like or what. I just, none of these characters really.
Old Dylan was the only one that hit. That was the one that's like, oh shit, like, damn, that sucks. But everybody else is like, yeah, that sucks that Khmer just basically ran roughshod over. Well, with the exception of old girl that was the Padawan. She was actually.
Oh, yeah.
I did like her.
Yeah, I did like her too.
I did like her. I actually like her ideals because it's like, hey, she's actually a pretty good, interesting character because you understood, like, all right, I know where she stands at, and she's kind of sort of questioning things, but she's just like, all right, well, I'll just roll with this and see how this goes, and then boom, she ends up getting killed, and it's like, damn,
she got the worst almost, so you're like, dang. and so we got, I would say this her and old boy with the
was it
Yord, like, they're the only two that we really got to really know. And
Yord was definitely sipping the Kool-Aid. That was the one that I was like, I liked him because he was really like all in on like the Jedi really being like the defenders and stuff. And I'm like, you really are sipping that Kool-Aid hard.
I wish they didn't make him dumb though, because he came off as dumb at times. Not just like
I call it naive, but I can see dumb. I can see dumb.
Like, all right, hey, Yord, where's the prisoner? Oh, the one that killed the Jedi Master? I put her on the ship by herself with robots. Like, what?
Yeah.
What, Yord? Yes, these robots going to deliver. Did you not have a ship? Like, no, we had a ship. But these robots go, Yord, mother, like, how did you get in? Who's your cousin? One
thing I would say is go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead.
No, one thing I would say is this. I like the aspect that, as much as everybody kept pushing back, I like the fact that the Force Witches were offshoots of the what the fuck is those
the Dathomir, the Night Sisters.
Night Sisters. I liked the fact that they were offshoots of the Night Sisters. I think one of them was a legit Night Sister.
Carrie the twins, right?
Yeah, the one that pushed back on Anicia on letting Osha go to the Jedi. He's like, no, hell no, we're not doing this, because it's like, yeah, that tracks, because the Night Sisters ain't really on the good side of the Jedi. So
yeah, so I think that's also a narrative that I've seen they've changed. I've been listening to like the writers and the actors and stuff. And so historically, and it doesn't mean anything, Disney owns Star Wars, so whatever they say is going on now is what goes on.
It's going off George Lucas, because a lot of people forget, like, George Lucas, and I didn't notice until like maybe a couple of years ago, apparently George Lucas was not a huge fan of those expanded universe books.
Oh no.
Even though it's like he just basically like, all right, whatever, I don't give a shit. He came out and I think that's something else a lot of fandoms really ignore. It's like, George Lucas did not give a shit about any of them books, right?
No. I think he hated Mara Jade Skywalker, who's a fan favorite of mine too.
Oh, somebody brought that up and he was just like, oh no, that doesn't exist. And I'm like, So that's why when everybody gets on Disney, I'm like, Disney's only following what George Lucas' mentality was. It's like, if I don't write it, it don't exist. And I'm like,
so I think that's part of the thing too, is that so for so long it was the original trilogy, right? And then
that's all you got.
That was all you had besides the Ewok thing and maybe the droids cartoon.
Two Ewok cartoons.
Yeah. And so for 20, 30 years, you had the novels, which is the expanded universe.
Oh, and the video games.
And the video games.
Shadows of the Empire and was it Jedi Academy?
Yeah, which were beloved by fans. But that's all fans were eating. So unlike
even Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, even I loved Rogue Squadron. That was my game. My game. And I forgot about that. I love that. I need to find they got a if I could play it on some other system now. Anyway, so you had these games, the Jedi Academy and all this stuff, and you had the books that continued on with the original heroes and expanded books. And also, not all those books were great. Now, there were some great books, and you had the Thrawn trilogy and all that other stuff.
Yeah, the mainline ones everybody did enjoy and stuff, but some of the offshoots was kind of like,
right. And then you had the characters that would come up, like the Solo children, Anakin Solo, Jason and Jaina the twins, and things like that. So it got further on. So for a lot of things, that's the only thing hardcore Star Wars fans got to eat, were the games and these books.
Mm-hmm.
Then George Lucas comes back. And even the things he changed weren't always popular with the fans that they've read these stories in the books that already explored this history. But it got retconned. It's at different levels of canon. So everybody forgets that if you weren't in the fandom, a lot of fans weren't, because they killed Anakin Solo because George was using Anakin Skywalker now. So they killed him off quick. And a lot of fans were happy with that. So even though people get on Disney for like scrapping legends, people forget George like
Earth. He was like, nah, bro. Nah.
And
if it ain't me, we ain't doing this.
Right. But I think that people had this thing in their head, and if what you brought wasn't better than the thing in their head that was cultivated by these books and to be fair, George Lucas made a lot of money on people's love of this universe. You know what I mean? So he cultivated the people get invested in these characters until he was like, no, that's not my idea. That's the thing. That's a problem with even how they wrote Thrawn in the Ahsoka series. It's because we still have Thrawn from Rebels and the book series in our heads. So if you can't compare to that, if you can't match or surpass that, a deviation of that is going to be.
I think he matched up in the Ahsoka series in a way and stuff. Even though I think there was moments where it's like, yeah, he kind of didn't like. It was at least two moments where I'm like, okay, you kind of deviated from what we know you from Rebels a little bit, but I'll let it go because at least it got to the finish line with his character. But it's like, y'all need to tighten up on that second season with him at least, because it's going to work.
Right. There's a thing with smart characters, and they had trouble with this in the Game of Thrones series. There's magic smart, where like, yes, that was all according to my plan. The temperature changed in the room by 2 degrees, and and there's actually plans out. Like I recently watched a movie I hadn't watched in a while. Fresh, remember the 90s?
Oh yeah. The kid that apparently was like super smart. I'm like, all right, bro. Like you come on, you had luck on your side on the couple.
He had luck. Some of those things had to match, but also you saw how things were planned out. Yeah. So even if you go from there, Thrawn was like, no, that was all according to my plan. What was the plan, Thrawn? Oh, that was all according to. You can't do that in a lot of writing characters. And
you get it the first 2 times, we're like, all right, cool. Third time, all right, easy.
Yeah,
all right.
So look at that. So we come back to the Acolyte, and I think some of those things, everyone understand, like the girls being twins. That was a Kathleen Kennedy idea. That when she originally wrote it, they were just sisters. I don't know how that would have worked, but apparently Kathleen Kennedy's a twin, so she wanted the twins to be in this. I never knew she was. I'm
glad they switched it up to where it was just like, oh, they just took a person and just that tracks.
I like that idea. Twins. Yeah, I like that idea. And like I said, I think the bones of a series is really good in here. I think making the Jedi, because they are a dominant power, making them the antagonists of the series is a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
I think where it falls is we have some Jedi we have a group of Jedi and the green one from the High Republic.
Yeah.
I never read the High Republic, so I don't know all their characters, but I know she's in it. None of them are acting like Jedi, and we really don't have really concrete reasons why. So like for the green one, the master that's like we don't want oversight, or we don't want a review. Well, why? Like I don't know why it's more the public would hate, why the public would be more fearful of a Jedi going around killing people versus like an outside force user. Like what is that?
That's the mystery right there, because it's like, okay, what is up with you and Kamir? Because clearly you and Kamir got some beef here, because we saw he had little Jedi, the lightsaber whip shits on his back, and I'm like, what the fuck happened that made you be like, yo, I fucking hate the Jedi? Yeah. And look, I hope they get a second season, because that would be great to kind of answer that. And I think that's the frustrating aspect a little bit, because it's like I want to know more about her and her like literally lying. And then, spoilers and stuff, if you listen to this, because this is going to be a lot of spoilers. But I have to wonder, like, are you going to Yoda and lying to him too?
Yeah, like, so that's a big thing. Are you going to lie and say, hey, we got to talk, it's all about Saul. Hey, my apprentice is back. Or are you lying to Yoda? And Yoda's like,
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
I said something, but that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. And what were they doing this whole time? And so, like, there's things set up. I feel like if this was edited different, if this was like some scenes were put in and some things were taken out and used better, I think this would have flowed a lot better. And I think that people would have received it. Because, like I said, I think the bones of a story are good stories here. I think the lightsaber fights, I've heard people complain about the lightsaber fights.
Look, people, I'm going to tell you something much. Prequels up to this point, lightsaber fights have gotten way better, because I think in the original trilogy, we let it rock because it was going based off of basic sword play. Yeah. It wasn't nothing fancy.
It was the 70s and early 80s. Like,
so it's like the sword. So basically, people forget like that era. It was just like you let the emotions of the sword play tell the story more so than just this and that. Whereas when you got to the prequels trilogy, prequel all the way to this point, yes, the emotions are there. Don't get it twisted. I mean, fuck, Duel of Fates in Revenge of the Sith is, you saw the emotions between Anakin and Obi-Wan, but the choreography was just dope as fuck to match the intensity of the emotions of the characters. And I think that's what makes these lightsaber battles, even in Acolyte, work, because the emotions matches the choreography of what's happening. Because when Saul and Kamir are fighting, that shit is fucking
it's good. And I like that you added that there's some kung fu inspired.
He doesn't have the lightsaber. He's actually like, yo, he's working.
He got hands. Look, you can say what you want about Saul's character or how he messed up. Boy got hands.
Remember the Clone Wars cartoon where they show Mace fighting the Trade Federation's machines with no lightsaber, and he just that tracks. That's why I was like, some people were feeling some way about Saul doing it. I'm like, guys, did you not remember the Clone Wars cartoon where Mace was doing this shit without a lightsaber? Like, this tracks. Like,
I remember when I saw that episode, because I think it was like they were like 3 minute. They were like 3 minute.
Yeah, it was 3 minute ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And he lost his episode. I was like, oh, what's going to happen to Mace? He ain't got a lightsaber. My boy was like,
Force powers.
It went.
Nah, that makes sense. Like, Jedi and Sith alike, if they're very well trained, they don't need no lightsaber. They'll still murder you without it.
And there was a point where you saw when he was fighting the Wookiee, he was letting that Wookiee live. There was a point where he dodged and he could have like swung, but he didn't because he was trying to. Saul had hands. And I said people were down in those lightsabers, and I was like, oh, lightsaber fights, and I was like, no, these were good. If you're hating on this, you just want to hate.
At this point, you're just hating to hate.
You're hating to hate. If you didn't like the story, fine. But be honest. And that's what I think. I think people can't be intellectually honest about what they're seeing. It's just tribalism at this point. Yeah. I have a problem with the last not this show, but the last couple of Star Wars shows. People have survived some lightsaber attacks. And I was like, come on now.
I'm trying to think. What was it? What was in Ahsoka?
Sabine got stabbed like through her spine almost, and she was good the next day.
It's like, Mr. Organ, we're good. I'm like, sure.
There's a hole in you. We're okay.
I mean, Kid Fisto might still be alive.
what's her name? Mosley, from Kenobi.
Yeah.
She survived 2 lightsaber attacks from Vader. Like that was.
Look, there are certain people. It's like, look, I think people need to understand. Main character plot armor is a thing.
there's plot armor. There's plot armor. And then
there's certain characters where it's like, I'll let it go because it's like, look, you got plot armor. There's a reason why you survive. Fine. It's stupid. Fine.
Right.
Luke Skywalker survived some bullshit where I'm like, should have died, Luke, but fine. We'll let it go because you're Luke Skywalker. We're good.
Obi-Wan survived some falls. They'll be like, I know you're a Jedi, but you fell on your shoulder. Dooku collapsed a bridge on your legs. You okay, Obi? You right? No, we go. Okay, all right.
I guess. I mean, look. The way I see it is this. I think once we found out Darth Maul survived, I think in my head I let the shit rock.
That's a fair point.
Darth Maul got split in half and survived. Fuck it.
At least he came up with robot legs or something.
Yeah, so it's like
Mosley got stabbed twice in the gut, and she was like, "I'm good."
I think it was this like with Darth Maul. I laughed because it's like I literally sat back when I saw Clone Wars and he came back with the fucking spider legs. I was sitting back like, shit will fucking work. I really don't like this, but fuck it, he's back. Fine.
And they told a good story with it, and I think that's the key. I think if you tell a good story, I try to explain this to somebody else. You could change stuff, but you have to execute it well. Like Batman Begins, they changed a bunch of stuff about Batman, but it was executed well. So I think good writing can really turn the tide. And I think the first 3 episodes of Acolyte were rough writing. It was just rough writing, and things were happening.
Yeah, once that 4th episode ended with Kamir popping up, I was like, oh shit. And he blew everybody away and it cut the credits. I was like, that's how you're supposed to end the episode.
Yeah. And that was a good action. That was a good action scene. People complained about that, and I was like, no, that was a good place to end it. You don't know what the heck's happening. Like,
when they bust out the lightsabers and he just I was like, oh, damn.
And honestly, this is what we've always wanted from lightsaber combat that we've read in the books of people like throwing lightsabers, using the force with the you know what this reminded me of? I don't know if you know, there's like lightsaber competitions every year. At least I know there was before COVID. I don't know if there are now, so forgive me. But every year you go to the lightsaber competitions and people will come up with their own little storyline for like a 5-minute, 8-minute short. And there would be lightsaber choreography in these short films, and it would be amazing. It would be amazing. And that's what you wanted in the Star Wars films. And I feel like this delivered that. Oh, yeah. And again, I just think if you again, everybody, if you could love or hate a storyline, that's you know, but be honest, right? This was some good story. This was good sword fight. I mean, this was good fight choreography. It was dynamic. You were, every time I saw it, I was invested. When X-23 picked up that lightsaber and was like going and like was going on equal footing for a while, you were like, yeah.
Dude, when Main and Dara in the episode 1 were fighting, that was dope, because here you have somebody who's a Jedi master fighting somebody that just got knives, and it was done in such an ingenious way to where it was like I like how you saw May Rolodex in the back of her mind of what she could do to fight this Jedi master. And then when she figured out, oh, this bartender's still there, I'll sit there and try to throw a knife and save her. And then I can and it worked. It was like, oh, okay. All right. I get, okay. This kind of works. It's don't get it twisted. I kind of look at Andara like, you know, full and well, she's going to try to.
Yeah. But I like that, because that was one of the few things I liked from Kenobi was when they were like, the Jedi's compassion is their weakness, right? Someone threatened this citizen, and if a Jedi's in the room, they gotta
save him.
And it's like a good hunter knowing how their prey moves and what their prey is attracted to. And so I thought that was a great way. And what I thought we were gonna get was a series about her killing Jedi in very yeah, but like in unique ways. You're less powerful, right? I took and you can tell me if you had something, if you thought something different, but they came up with this thing about the Jedi don't attack unarmed people, and that's something they came up for this show. But I thought they did that to kind of nerf that. Oh, you know, because if not, a Jedi Master wins this fight in like the first couple seconds, right? Oh, yeah. So you add this into the show that this is the culture of this
this
generation
girl's Jedi.
Right. And so now, okay, this gives her a chance to come up with creative waves like the now she should be like, yes, yeah, that should have, but all right, we're gonna give the next step. I didn't get that. But and I think, like I said, I just think there was the bones of a really good show here. If they just had a different somebody in there to be like, no, we need to edit this different. We need to change up this order of the show a little differently. We need to make some of these character motivations make a little bit more sense in what your. Sometimes a writer can have something in their head, but it doesn't transition well to the audience. It doesn't mean you have to talk down to them, but you gotta let them know what they're thinking. And even when you use, because you can, another thing about the House of Dragon stuff is they use silence very well, where you can get what a character's thinking without them even saying anything. Right. And I don't think they did that well here. You might have a different opinion.
I mean, I think they did it well enough, but it was still kind of like I had more questions. But I'm not one of those people that's like I need immediate answers. It's just more like if you're going to, I think for me, it's like if you're going to leave these plot threads open, including old girl, ring chick, it's like give me another season and hopefully they address it. I think that's because in my head I'm very hopeful of things, so it's like all right. If you're going to leave these plot threads open, even the shit with Plagueis, I actually did enjoy it. Because one of the things that everybody kept complaining about is, oh man, these witches just did these twins and they just ignored the shit out of Plagueis. And I'm like, I don't know, because I remember very specifically Palpatine basically saying, yeah, Plagueis basically kind of learned that whole thing from someone else. And that's always been the Sith way, where it's basically they just take shit that they learn from somebody else and just use it for themselves and stuff. And which is part of the reason why I kind of enjoyed the Bad Batch in a way, because it's like, oh, that's where Palpatine kind of, okay, that makes sense, But it's still, I want to know, like, okay, Plagueis, what's your play here now that you have this going on? Because I'm more curious on that now versus like he's just there.
Right, he's lurking in the cave, looking at her or whatever. Well, she confirmed that he is Plagueis' apprentice.
Yeah.
It's kind of hinted at that they're going to come up with the rule of two, which would really break canon that we've known for a while. It started with Bane, right? I don't know if you know Darth Bane came up with the rule of two for 1,000 years. Like I said,
Mir or May might get killed.
Yeah, there's no way they survived that process. Since the beginning of the show, I didn't have a problem with either Plagueis looking what happened with the twins and going, oh. Or even Plagueis maybe influencing the witches into.
See, I took the Plagueis influenced the witches to do that more so than them basically being the origins of it. Because it's like, yeah, that would track if Plagueis kind of in an unknowingly way just kind of like, all right, I'm going to puppeteer this shit and kind of giving them a little nudge. Like, hey, do this. And then I can see
there's a nice plot of land on this planet. You might want to check that out.
what it came off to me, because in my head I felt like Plagueis was kind of using May and Osha as a testing ground. Like, all right, let me see if I push these people in this direction. Let me see if this splitting thing works, and if it does work, okay, off to the races. And then boom, Anakin becomes a thing now.
How can I get this into one being? And and then like the Force going, no, we're going to do this wrong. But and like I said, I think the bones are there, and I like what your thought is like some shows, and maybe this is where even me, I'm talking about me too. We've lost that a lot of shows that we love were not fully formed or good those first couple of seasons. You know what I mean? Like it took a couple of seasons for Angel to get rolling
right. First season of Angel was very much, you're just a spin-off of Buffy, huh?
Yeah. Right, cool. Until it finds its own voice to dance. Every Star Trek series takes 2 seasons to like.
But the exception of Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine, that first season was
Deep Space Nine to me, I always felt Deep Space Nine had the benefit of starting off hot with fucking Cisco cussing out Picard like, fuck you, my wife got killed.
Whoop 359. And Picard, you know what? The writers, I've always maintained, I get pushback on this, but like DS9 to me is the most well written and more Star Trek show to me, especially for character development. Like any of those characters, even background characters, they get a story behind them. And again, like you said before, that's something you can do with 25 episodes a season.
No, I even take it a step further. On paper, Worf coming to Deep Space Nine should have been death. But they put Worf in there, and it's like, shit, this fucking actually works. Because anytime you take a character from one show and put them as a mainstay for another show, it just comes off as desperation or ratings grab, right? Like, hey, Worf is in Deep Space Nine. The ratings is going to skyrocket it. And it's like, oh boy, here we go. And it's like, oh, Worf is actually pretty dope in this show. All right.
Worf is better on DS9 than he was on TNG, in my opinion. He's a better character.
I can see that.
I just, if you look at the first couple seasons of TNG, Worf is just there to be told no. Hey, Captain, you should probably fire. No, Mr. Worf. Or get thrown around.
I kind of agree with that because I felt like the way that they kind of did him in First Contact, where he was on, because you remember that ship that he was on was supposed to be the ship that's supposed to be the Borg defeater, and it's like the Defiant just gets blown up. Like what? And I'm like, damn, like what we doing there? Like the Defiant was supposed to be like the top tier.
Yeah. Right. This is your whole purpose. You had one job, was to fight the Borg Defiant. That was your whole job.
We found Worf is the only one surviving in the Defiant. It's like, yeah, go on ahead and just teleport him out of there and let him
that's a nice little ship you got there, huh, Wolf?
But sucked to see it blow up.
Yeah, but I think that it was worse than that. It didn't get blown up. It got disabled. Like the Borg shot it a couple times and it got disabled. It's like, man, Defiant, you had one job. They really hyped it. Hey, look, they hyped Defiant up in these. People don't understand. They hyped the Defiant up in Deep Space Nine, and hey, look, we all ate it up like, oh shit, the Borg destroyer. It had shotguns on the side of something. It's like, they were like phaser beams. It was
open the scene of fucking First Contact. Ah, shit, the Defiant got fucking wrecked.
Oh man, what? The Federation built you for this one purpose. Like that's messed up. But yeah. I think Worf was great. But what we're saying is like they got so much character development, right? In this thing. And like you said, they had 25 episodes for 7 seasons or whatever to do it. So you got time to talk to the Dabu girl or the bartender or whatever. And so I think maybe this show, I feel like if we knew the characters a little bit more and cared about them, I think the characters that got knocked off would have hit more. And I think because sometimes they had red shirt Jedi in there that you showed. I don't know who these Jedi are.
I don't mind. Look, I don't mind red shirt Jedi. It's just I feel okay. I think me and you, we were all talking when Andor came out, right? And how we enjoyed that series, right? And I think the one thing about Andor that worked was that, okay, you're following Mon Mothma and her political aspect, which I thought was great. You know, we understand like how she got to that point. Great, we know her trajectory and why she's doing what she's doing, right? Then we follow old boy from Rogue One and how he got to the position that he's in. That was great. His whole thing in the prison system. And then you're following the dude that's working for the Empire and how he pretty much just started drinking the Kool-Aid of the Empire because he wanted to rise up in ranks and stuff.
Yeah.
So you're following 3 different people, and it worked because it's like as much as there's an intersectionality, there's not really much of an intersectionality because it's only revolving around this one character, the dude that was funding Mon Mothma and that whole thing. And it's like, okay, that works. So any ancillary character that was supporting with those characters, they gave you just enough to where you understood their plight, but they didn't really overextend themselves. And I think in this show, Acolyte, they kind of overextended themselves on characters when they didn't need to.
That's a really good point because I think you're right. In Andor, Mon Mothma, we spent time with her. We know what's going to be okay with her, but I remember feeling nervous for her because the finances didn't match up. Like her bank statement.
No, I was expecting like, oh man, she's going to get caught. Like we know she isn't going to get caught because obviously she ends up becoming the face of the rebellion eventually. But like, you're still kind of like, oh shit, she gonna get caught? Okay, she didn't get caught.
Oh, you're fine. Nobody cooked your books. Like, God dang, man, really? Like, I got a cousin that can do that for you.
So we're following. So in this one, in Acolyte, it's like, okay, they did a good job of May and Osha. Cool, so great. Kamir to a point, cool. Like even Yord, it's like, okay, I feel him because, like I said, you're right in the fact that Yord had some brain lapse at moments and stuff. But like you understood
by the book Jedi, and I appreciate that.
But there were other characters I was like, I would have rather you just been like red shirt or just been there for a hot minute because you made me feel as though you were important. And then it's like, shit, they're done. I'm like, well, that's unfortunate.
They had the Wookiee making the tribal signs from the witches on the planet.
I'm thinking like, okay, the Wookiee's going to have something dead. And I'm like, he got killed off camera. What the fuck happened? Like, what's going on here? Like,
what's the story? And it kind of makes me think like, oh, I hate when stories go over here when the actual interesting story is over here. You know what I mean? And like I said, there were things here with these characters that you could have built upon, and I think some of it was just wasted, or maybe the camera just wasn't on them. And like, you could tell me Tillman wants to go home, but show me why he wants to go home. You know what I mean? Like, have a conversation. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but
I mean, don't get it twisted. When Mother Anissa like was in his head, I was like, okay, we understand why he wants to go home because at least the way I interpreted it, and I don't know if you interpret it this way, but like I interpreted it as him not asking questions, putting him in that position to where he's like, this is stupid. I just want to go home, man. Like, what are we doing here? And I think that's probably why I didn't trip off of him not asking what we're doing here. But at the same time, it's like, if you had just gave me a scene of him like asking a question of like, I think like you brought up earlier, like, yo, like, why are we here? And maybe Indara and them never answer this question. Okay, cool. Like, great. But we didn't get that.
It could have been he's missing out on something. Maybe there's a training with Yoda for lightsaber fencing. Maybe it's
something. Or like I said, nobody told him why. They just said, don't answer questions, just go.
Yeah, all right, 16-year-old kid, here, just do this thing. Yeah. And I think, and then also a lot of this, I will read anything. So I have read my share of book talks and smut. V, this is your fault. Yeah. If you ever see this, I gotta tell you a story about a book she recommended to me at one point. But so this reads like this reads like some dark romance book where you could be like, oh, the dark-haired bad boy that, you know, things like that. It reads like that. Yeah. So even before they came up with the audio of the text-to-speech thing, I was in one of the reviews going, this is like one of those like Fourth Wing fairy court type books going on here, and I think that's a place for in Star Wars. I'm not. Star Wars should be a place where I should be able to get a murder mystery, a heartthrob novel, a racing story, whatever. Because Star Wars, you should be able to have all those stories in this. Mm-hmm. But I think that type of writing appeals to certain type of people. You know what I mean? Certain types of groups, I should say that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I think that it's probably jarring for some people that they're coming here for a certain type of story and they get this type of story. Yeah,
because I mean, to your point, like that's probably one of the reasons why I push back on so many people that just go over the top with critique, because it's like, guys, it's not as bad as you say it is. Like you can make your gripes, and it's like it's kind of like you said at the top. It's like this is the worst thing in Star. I'm like, easy, stop. Like words have meanings. Like no, like I say this to somebody. Look, I enjoy Book of Boba Fett, but at the same time, I understood the complaints where people were like, "How did it turn into Mandalorian 2.5 again?" Like I was rolling with Book of Boba Fett, right? Like this idea of like, okay, this is where Boba. But then once the Mandalorian landed, I was like, whoa, time out. I get it because him and Boba Fett are linked in a way, and I get that. But like, once you started making that the back door for season 3, it's like you kind of deviated from what Book of Boba Fett was actually going. Because I can buy the idea of Boba Fett like kind of rising to power and taking the place of what
Jabba. Like the Jabba.
Like, I get that. That makes perfect fucking sense.
That's an interesting story.
But once you throw the Mandalorian in there, it's like you kind of deviated off to the right.
There's no more of that. I think I always imagine there's some guy in a red tie that comes up and is like, "Yeah, I need to get your story, but we need to add the Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian here."
This. Like you had him, like he had his own gang. He had it there. You don't have to do all this.
If you do the first season of Boba Fett right, then second season or third season, you can have the Mandalorian show up for an episode or whatever.
But otherwise, no, keep it to Boba Fett. We don't need all this other shit. No.
Like people complain about Luke Skywalker. I love Luke Skywalker coming in Mandalorian season 2 because it seemed like the end of the story. Yeah, but I wouldn't want Luke Skywalker there in season 1 because it takes away from this being the Mandalorians.
Also, I don't need Luke Skywalker in Book of Boba Fett either. It's like
no.
That's where I was like, I understand that gripe because it was like, this isn't Book of Boba Fett anymore. This is just the Mandalorian now, and it's like.
Well, I also think is that in Mandalorian when they showed Boba Fett and he shot the guy on the throne, I forget his name, whatever his name is.
Yeah, the
shot him on the throne. Yeah, and just like tossed him off, and homegirl from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just like sipping on some yak.
I was like, all right, this is dope. Like, all right, cool.
That is what I wanted to see.
Because even with old boy from the Clone Wars, the bounty hunter, Cade.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that makes sense. Cade and Boba got beef. Makes perfect fucking sense.
Do you know there was a deleted episode of that where they were supposed to have a shootout, but they never got to it because it got canceled?
Yeah.
And it was a scene where that's how Boba Fett got the dent in his helmet was from that duel.
And it made sense. But like I said, once you and that's the thing, because it's like I guess that kind of shows the whole thing with how Disney goes to Star Wars. It's like great ideas, but then you do unnecessary like stuff that doesn't. Because like I said, I'm a fan of Mandalorian season 3 because I like the idea of like even though a lot of people didn't like the fact of what's her face kind of taking over the show, it kind of it still tracks with like Mando trying to bring the Mandalorians together, so I can kind of buy it. But the other side of it is I understand why people felt like it deviated from it being about Mando as a character.
Well, I think because season 2 had the perfect end to their story and everything else has kind of like. You know what I mean? The goodbye and everything. Not saying you can't come back to them, but I think in Boba Fett was like a couple months later, and they're reunited in the thing. So in our timeline, we just had this emotional goodbye, and when are they going to be back to get back together? Oh no,
they're back together, and then third season, it's like, all right, cool, but I kind of like this whole thing with Mando meeting up with the other Mandalorians and trying to get back into the good graces. That's a great show.
That's a great show. And even if you wanted to like switch off that this is like Mando's here, but the Mandalorian story now is about Bo-Katan, like that's fine because Mando and Grogu's story ended in season 2. You can come back to it, but Disney, you don't gotta rush. And I think it's like Disney is like a virgin trying to get out.
It's basically, and this is one of the things that I kind of hated about how Disney maneuvered with the sequel trilogy is like, you don't have to appeal to everybody. Like, no. I'm a person that I love The Last Jedi because I like the aspect of them saying, fuck it, we're going to deviate away from the Skywalker stuff. Because I know a lot of people, and it was weird. They didn't like the aspect of the buildup of Rey just being a nobody. I'm like, no, I like that because it's like all this buildup and she's just a person that's just force sensitive, and it makes sense. Like that's just what it is. And I think people wanted that. We got to make her somebody that's important. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, just make her like, no, we don't need to make her a Skywalker. You don't need to make her a Palpatine's great niece or whatever. Just it's cool.
So I feel like the writers they talk a lot about, from what I've seen about interviews from different people, and the thing has been. They've all been scared of Luke Skywalker taking up the spotlight when he comes into the story, right? There is a way to write Han, Luke, and Leia, not make them failures or not make them in the story in episode what is Awakens? Seven. And then have the other characters springboard off that and go that way. You know what I mean? And make it about Rey and make Rey a nobody. I think you should have made Rey a nobody. And if that's your story, stick with it and tell your story so it makes sense.
Got the Rise of Skywalker. I was like, you walked that back. We were fine with her being a nobody. Why does she have to be Palpatine's great granddaughter? And shit? It's like, come on, man. It
doesn't explain anything. But I think there's people and I don't want to blame the directors. I think there's, to me, when I see stuff.
Oh no, I'm blaming JJ for that third one. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
No. What I mean is there's like I know what you're saying, but I mean because I don't think JJ cares about a lot of these things he does. But But I think that there's things like, hey, make Sabine a Jedi. Oh, but she's a Mandalorian. No, make her a Jedi.
No,
Okay.
I guess I'm fine
Anybody
with
can,
it. It's fine. It's different. Don't get it twisted.
but
I'm
anybody
fine
can
with
use
it.
the Force. Okay. Well, then why are the witches trying to steal Force sensitive essence? Like, don't worry about that. And so you got to have these things. I just feel like they're doing some things they think it's going to work and sell without actually thinking about how this lore works. And don't get it. I love the Acolyte a lot more than I like Kenobi. I like the Acolyte a lot more than
Kenobi. To me was like, okay, I like the idea of us following Kenobi and what he was doing on Tatooine. Thought that was great. I think as much as I understood what they were trying to do with the whole Princess Leia thing, I think it was kind of like you didn't have to bring Princess Leia as a kid in. I don't have any problem with the little girl that played Princess Leia.
the little girl did a great job.
She was doing what she that's just what the script asked for her. She did it and it was fine. I thought her and Kenobi had a good dynamic, but you didn't have to bring Princess Leia into it to tell that story. Like you could have, because I didn't mind old girl as one of the seven sisters or whatever and stuff. Because I like the idea of her going to that planet, being like, "Yo, we know that there might be, like Luke Skywalker might be on this planet. Like, what's going on here?" I like that angle. You don't need to bring Leia into that shit.
But again, in the original script, she was apparently going to die, and it was going to be a tragic death, where Vader's like, "I kill you, I knew you were right," or that's a tragic death, or her hunting Luke and it's dying from injuries. That'd have been a tragic death.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you should have let that. That's the way that story plays out. I think Obi-Wan, seeing what he's doing up to and getting and his whole world just collapsed, and he killed his son best friend. Like, and I didn't even
mind Kenobi and Darth Vader having a fight, because like it kind of tracks, because when you look at episode 4, he was like, "Oh, we meet again," and I was like, "Oh, so they must have maybe fought previously."
It's the execution. It's the execution. Yeah. And I think also when they wrote Leia as a little girl, they wrote a fully formed Leia. They didn't write a Leia that's developing. They wrote miniature mini Leia. And it was like, well, she wasn't always the leader. You could say she's bold, but she wasn't always. Obi-Wan shouldn't be taking lead from her in some of these situations.
I love how they wrote Owen. Like he was like, "No, I'm not letting you fucking get Luke caught up in this bullshit. Get the hell out of here!" And that makes sense, because now it explains why he was feeling some way about Luke in episode 4. Because at first we always like, "Man, he's really a fucking asshole to Luke," and it's like, "Oh no, that makes sense," because like he got told, take care of Luke, and now you're like, "No, you're not roping him into this shit. You told me to take care of him." Like,
you can't be bringing this chaos to my family no more. And look at you, still wearing the same Jedi clothes. You stand up.
I thought you were like, "What the hell are we doing here?" Like I said, it's to your point though. You said there's bones here. It's just you're doing more unnecessary things than you need to.
And I don't know why. I don't know, because you're Disney. You know how to make a story. You know how to craft a story. What is going on here?
And again, I think it's that you're trying to appeal to everybody. It's like you don't have to. Sometimes you can just do the story and just like, look, whatever happens.
Sit down, get a story. I don't know if there is a creative director, but a creative director that makes everything make sense in your story.
I knew some people that did not like Mandalorian season 1, but at the end of the day, all of us universally love season 1. So it was just like, hey, tough shit. If you didn't like it, whatever. We still go. And that's it.
And let me say this. If you love the Acolyte, if you think Acolyte is the best Star Wars that's ever been.
That's cool. I get it. At least I fundamentally get it. Cool.
Good for you. No one should say you can't like something. If you dislike the Acolyte, if you thought that the storylines didn't make sense to you or whatever, that's fine too. But to me, just be honest audiences of it. Like it's not the end of the world. No one's trying to kill your childhood. No one, we have good Star Wars. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what? I love the Clone Wars series. Not every Clone Wars episode hit. You know what I mean?
I'm seeing what's happening right now. Like for instance, like Bad Batch just finished his 3-season run. I think a lot of us saw it like, oh, so you're pretty much explaining the whole Palpatine is back somehow. And this is the back. But like common sense in our head was like, okay, we knew why Palpatine came back, because we knew obviously he's the reason why the Caminos had to shut down the cloning facility. cool. Now I'm grateful that the Bad Batch explained deeper on what Palpatine was going for. But like in my head, I was like, I didn't need a Palpatine came back somehow. I think a lot of us kind of put two and two together. Like, yeah, it makes sense that Palpatine obviously came back. I mean, hell, I think even to the point, didn't that happen in expanded universe books? He had like 8 clones rolling around.
He had clone bodies, and that's where force transfer came in, where he was transferring his essence the other.
Yeah, so even then, it's like, yeah, it's stupid. Don't get it twisted. It was stupid then, but it was just like, all right, fine. Cool.
But this is the same thing they just came out with. I think what I've always liked about the Force and cloning things is the Force actively tries to stop people from making Force clones, right? Yeah, and so like it takes a bunch of different tries. Like
it's always one person that's like that has the perfect thing because that even goes to Snoke. Like the fact that you look Rise of Skywalker, you see all the different Snokes that they try to do. It's like to your point, like the Force is preventing him from making Snoke this perfect being kind of thing. So that tracks.
I like that. And so I liked in Bad Bitch that Bad Bitch. Sorry. Bad Batch. Oh, they were saying that because I was so afraid they were going to make Omega a force sensitive clone. And it was like they're like, no, but she has some enzymes in her blood that makes it possible to clone force sensitive DNA or something.
Her and other kids are force sensitive, so we can get something out of this somehow.
And it was like I was like, oh, that's a cool concept. So she can't become force sensitive, but her blood allows you to make a clone that might be force sensitive. So that's a rare component. And maybe, and I thought that was a cool little add-on to the lore, right? Because I like that the Force is constantly like, no, stop it. And even when you went to Gus Fring in Mandalorian season 2 when he's trying to make force sensitive clones of himself, and it's like okay, I get it. And
you use the Mandalorians as sort of the basis for like armor and building up your troops. And it's like, all right, that actually makes sense. Of course.
That's a good villain goal. I don't want to see a mass army of force using true stormtroopers or anything, but that's a good villain goal. But again, if you're watching these storylines and then you go to Ahsoka and Ahsoka's like, no, anybody can use the Force, then what are all these people making clones for?
No, but even then, though, I never, because even with Sabine, I still enjoy the fact that it's like, because even in my head, I always like, how come there's no Mandalorian Jedi? That because like obviously there's Wookiee Jedi, which I want to kind of see more of because I think was it Rebels or was it Clone Wars that showed a Wookiee Jedi?
So the original Wookiee Jedi was in Legends. It was Chewbacca's nephew Lobaka, I think.
Yeah,
and then there was in Clone Wars you saw a child Padawan Wookiee Jedi. And I know there's been a couple other Wookiee Jedi in comics or Legends or something like that. So what I've always thought is again for Jedi, they're based in Zen Buddhism. So you have this philosophy. So that's another thing I think Disney struggles with. I think that they have a Western enlightened philosophy when it comes to the Force instead of like the Zen Buddhist and Bushido principles the Force and Jedi are built in. So when the Force, the dark side and the light side, and the Sith and the Jedi no longer have philosophies of how you access the Force, it becomes just a superpower. And I think they get lost in it. So I always
got it or you don't.
Yeah. And I think my headcanon has always been, and this is admittedly my headcanon was Mandalorian culture conflicts with Jedi principles in a lot of ways. Some ways they complement it, and some ways they.
Well, that's why both parties have always butted heads over the years. In terms of how they do it. So
so they had the Mandalorian that made the Darksaber. He was a Mandalorian Jedi, but that was how. Even that would be an interesting story. How did you? I
don't know. When they showed the Darksaber in the Clone Wars, I was like, whoa, time out. There was a Mandalorian Jedi. Do tell. And that's why that's why I don't have a problem with Sabine being, I guess, sort of Jedi, but it's like you have to expand on that in a way that's like, all right, cool, instead of just she just knows the Force.
Yeah, she just wanted to bad enough. Ahsoka, she's not force sensitive. No, I don't think that's a thing. You don't think it's a thing? Because if that's not a thing, then the motivations. Because I don't know. Remember in the Clone Wars, the mother Tazan, the Night Sisters head.
I think Mother Tazan or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name. But there was one where she was going against Mace Windu, and she was going to a planet stealing the force sensitive essence from people. She's like, because I'm not really a force user, I use magic, so I need to have that connection. Like, yo, I'm gonna steal it from them, and it's like, okay, I mean, I'm with that.
That's how she beefed up Darth Maul's brother from looking skinny to like fucking looking jacked and shit because magic.
Yeah, but you can't say no. She just didn't want it bad enough. What do you mean she didn't want it bad enough?
Yeah, that's not how this works. Like, come on, bro. Like,
so that's all I mean. And I think that when you replace a mythos, you have to have at least a well thought out mythos to replace it that is executed as well. I think even in Game of Thrones, people didn't know the 1,000-year history Martin wrote out about these characters, but it felt 3D because all these lines had a weight to it because of the history behind it. If you change how those things work, as we saw in like later seasons, you didn't build up this stuff, so like later seasons this doesn't work. Like you gotta go from there. So I mean, I just think, I know I did a little rant here, but I think the Acolyte has a good bones. I think you changed my mind a little bit in that I think every series we grew up with, or most every season we grew up with, that first season has been rocky. You know what I mean? Or it wasn't a fully formed.
And that's why I want Disney to be like, all right, you have something here, expand on it. Like, don't feel like you have to do too much in order to like, all right, we got to appease this side. We got to appease, because that was the issue that people, and that was the issue people have with the sequel movies. It's like, all right, cool. You did your Force Awakens, nostalgia. That's fine. You got your money. Cool. Just trust that your directors are going to just do the story. And look, if there's a segment of people that don't like it, fuck them. Just keep doing your story.
Plan out your story. And because I remember after Force Awakens, I think Last Jedi came out, and we were in the chat, and I was like, I don't think they have a plan. And I think Lucas was arguing, but he's like, no, they have a plan. They're going to make a movie. All these movies not making a plan. I was like, I don't think they have a plan.
No, they had a plan, but I think when they fired when they fired Colin Trevorrow, and we saw his ideas, I was like, yeah, they did have a plan. It's just when they fired him, it fucked up everything, because Colin was actually going to piggyback off of what Last Jedi did in a way that Rise of Skywalker was. Rise of Skywalker, that movie is it's a 180 from what Colin traveled, because Colin was literally going to have Kylo be full blown like evil. There ain't going to be no redemption. I was like, thank you.
Well, and I think, and then you had the Reylo people you tried to please, then you tried to please the Legacy people, then you tried to please the comedy people, and I just think it's just a mess.
You're gonna have Kylo be evil. Go all in. Don't redeem him. Like, no, he's evil. Let it go.
To me, I thought a good flip would have been Rey goes further to the dark side and Kylo comes back to the light.
I think Rey was supposed to be sort of like Qui-Gon, kind of like in the middle a little bit, where she's like conflicted. Like, obviously, yes, she is going to be a Jedi, but she's going to be very much like kind of like gray-ish. I know gray Jedi is kind of something that was made up by fans in a way, but like they were going to play her in the sense of she was pretty much like, kind of like what we saw with Luke, where Luke was just like, I think when Yoda told him, like, yeah, you were also like Rey, like let her follow her own path. Like, it just is what it is,
Let her be a Jedi. And two other things about Acolyte that I thought was, so I like the fights. I like the concept in this show. They mentioned that there were other sets of like Jedi offshoots just out there doing stuff. I was like, oh, that's a good story out there too. There's Jedi, there's like subset religions of like Baptist Jedi, Catholic Jedi.
No, but that makes sense though, because that was also the thing that I enjoy, because it's like the fact that like you had Soul who basically disobeyed the Jedi Council, when it was like, yo, we just need you there to observe. We didn't tell you to go there and do that. And that ties into the fact that the Jedi do tend to sometimes overextend themselves when they're not supposed to. Like, you were there to observe. And it's just like in real life. It's actually, I don't know if it was you or somebody else, where it was just like how like in Star Trek, Starfleet has the prime directive where it's like, hey, you're not allowed to fucking interfere in another culture stuff, because that could actually represent big problems for us. If this plane is supposed to blow up, let it be. It ain't our job to be there to interfere. We're just there to observe and then back off. It is what it is. And if we interfere, that causes bigger problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the Jedi should be doing Prime Directive stuff. But then when you start dipping the toe into that, it causes issues.
Right. And so he's going off doing his own thing. And as we know, I always talk about when they're talking about the Jedi are dictators at first, like, well, no, because we know the Jedi doesn't make anybody stay. Like if you want to leave, they
leave. Just don't be out here using force powers.
Don't be doing no, but you can
which
leave
again,
you want.
Which again, it's like my man sat there and read them for filth in that last episode. Who are you to start dictating who can wield the force and who can't? Like, you know, like.
So when the Jedi told him to leave them people alone,
and he still did it. It's like, I think they're evil, and I'm like, well, dude, that's a religion.
All right, if they do some evil stuff, if they do some evil stuff that threatens our republic, we'll come back. Until then, leave them people alone.
He saw witches chanting and immediately went into panic mode. I'm like, why?
Though I will. Me and Sam got into this. If I thought children were in danger, and I'm like, what's going on? And you turn into a big smoke raven demon thing next to me, you might get that.
Look, here's my thing. My issue was, I think it was a situation of her going inside that dude's head did kind of like escalate it when she didn't have to.
That was mind rape.
yeah. But at the same time, I get why she did that, because that was just her way of giving them a warning, like, hey.
I understand. There's a show of power. There's a show of power. I understand. And I even like that they showed that the witches weren't even all like homogenous in how they were thinking.
Because they all were kind of split on the direction of what that coven was supposed to be. Because like when you have old girl say, hey, I'll let May go to the Jedi. If that's what she wants to do, that's what she wants to do. And they're like, well, why are you doing that? No, hell no, fuck the Jedi. And she's like, no. This is my decision. This is what she's going to do. Deal with it. And it's like,
but if the Jedi, but if you're right, no matter what mistakes they made, if the Jedi had come correct, it wouldn't escalate the way it did. So I can say turning into the monster, I'd have stabbed you. But if you would handle the situation better, it would never gotten to the point where you're making you're having.
Because Endara was actually pretty chill about it, because she was like, all right, look, we'll test your kids out. Let's cooperate. Let's talk. And we'd be good. And I think Endara,
they broke into their home. They picked their lock and broke into their home. So once you did that, we all gonna be. At the same
time, like that's why I feel Endara wasn't really down for what Soul did, and that's why I was like, yeah, Endara did kind of get a bad break, because she never co-signed on anything that Soul did, but she also at the same time, it's like you kind of lied to the council on what happened too. So.
And we don't know the motives of that yet, but it better make sense for that to be.
It needs to, because it's.
But the other thing that I really liked about the series that changed my mind, Disney introduced, and people argue with this a lot, and they went back and saw it, but Disney introduced bleeding of crystals, right? Bleeding. I
thought that was great, because it would have been very easy for her to just like, red lightsaber, and just like, no, the idea, because isn't that kind of like the idea of like the crystal kind of sort of picks you? If I remember correctly.
So I hated it when Disney brought it in. This show changed my mind on it. I thought this was very cool. I thought the visual was really cool. I thought it makes more sense to bleed your negative emotions into these crystals that choose you, and maybe the crystals themselves are pure or light side or whatever.
Wasn't that in Knights of the Old Republic, if I remember correctly? Like when
Knights of the Republic had. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Because didn't like in Knights of the Old Republic, when you land on the planet of the Jedis and you're like, you go into that cave with the crystals,
spider.
Yeah, wasn't it like you had to kind of like, it was. It's been a minute since I played it, but I'm trying to remember if it was like you went in there and you had to go through the test, and then boom, you had to like choose whichever crystal matched like whatever, if you were a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master or whatever and stuff. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so you're talking about two different things, but yeah, the one was the crystal you picked, because I remember I picked the silver one. But the way you got red lightsaber crystals was you had to go into these caves, and there was these spider eggs and stuff. So it made it seem like the spiders were killing things, and that killing violence bled into the lightsaber, or changed the lightsaber crystal into a certain kind of way, and that's where you got the red lightsabers from. Before that, in the old canon, George had it that they were synthetic lightsaber crystals, and that's why they weren't naturally created. They were forged. The Sith found a way to forge the lightsaber, and so they were synthetic, and that's why they were red. And then Legend stuff had stuff like the color represented what kind of Jedi you were, or they tried to explain that Mace Windu, because he used Vapad, he was like had the dark
Yeah.
light thing, whatever. But that wasn't, Samuel Jackson just wanted a purple lightsaber. But
Hey, look, any excuse to have, look, for me, purple lightsaber was a revelation for me because I was like, just purple lightsabers? I thought it was just red, blue, and green. That's it. Okay.
I have purple lightsaber right here, right now. So
hey, look,
like
that, and then when you play Knights of the Old Republic, and I forgot the chick's name when she has the yellow one, I was like, oh, we got
Basilisk,
Basilisk, she had the red. I was like, yellow. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. And then, like you said, when you go into the cave and it's silver, I was like, I didn't know there was silver. Okay, this is interesting.
And Clone Wars introduced that the Temple guards had the yellow lightsabers or whatnot. I think that's cool, but I think the way they did the bleeding in this, it converted me into like, because I always thought it was like, oh, you made it like mood, you made the lightsabers like mood rings now. But I was like, you know what? No, this is a cool thing. And like I said, be open to like maybe all these changes aren't bad.
Well, I like the representation of it, because even with Ahsoka having silver, it represents her sort of neutrality to just like where she's at as a Jedi. Like, yeah, like well, I mean, she is a Jedi, but just it represents where she's at as a person that's a Force user. Like, oh, she's silver, so she's kind of like.
Yeah, Yoda said Empire Strikes, or I think in Return of the Jedi, when I'm gone, last of the Jedi you be. And so like, but the writers have tried to skirt around that line as much. All right. So Ahsoka's alive, but she's technically not a Jedi. All right, Ezra's alive, but he's away in another galaxy.
Really, look, the books and even Rebels, like, and granted, I feel like the Force Unleashed games really kind of opened the floodgates to the idea of like Order 66 didn't really kill all the Jedi. Because I mean, you think about it, like when you look at Revenge of the Sith, right? They did Order 66, right? That movie posited the idea, like, so it's just Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. That's the last one. I mean, technically, you can say Anakin, even though he's Darth Vader. That's it. And then, like, I like the Force Unleashed when it was like, oh no, there was more Jedi, and I was like, okay. And then you find out that Force Unleashed isn't really canon, but then like the books, I believe, opened up the floodgates. Like, oh no, there were other Jedi that survived. It's just they just kept quiet and low key, and that's probably why I like the new Jedi Fallen Order games and stuff, because it's like, no, that tracks that they would be some Jedi that's like, nope, I'm not using my lightsaber. I want to stay quiet over in this middle of nowhere planet and just chill.
The books and the comics had some of the best Vader hunting down Jedi stories. Sometimes Vader was just suicidal. He would find a set of like Jedi trying to gather, it'd be like 12 of them, and he just goes in and don't even know if he's going to make it. They almost get him a couple times. But also there was characters like, and that's another thing. I think there's like, you might have said this, but I think there's multiple sets of these fandoms, right? I think there's new fans that are like open to the new stuff. I think there's old fans that are like, all right, I like the new stuff. There's old fans that are like, all right, I don't like it because it's different. There's the racist fans, there's the sexist fans, there's all this stuff. But I think sometimes we need to take a step back and there's honest look. People, there have always been powerful women and diverse characters in Star Wars. Princess Leia is the most competent person in the original trilogy. Mon Mothma has always led the Republic. The Dark Woman has been in the comics for a while. Mara J. Skywalker. Jaina Solo is the hero of Legend Star Wars. She is the Sword of the Jedi.
I saw people, man, look. One of the critiques about the Acolyte that always irked me, it's like, okay, and I think it's Star Wars as a whole. It's like there are so many things you can critique Star Wars, and you will never see me push back on it because I get it. With the Acolyte, what had me rolling, these motherfuckers were pissed off. Oh, why is the witches? Why are they chanting? And I'm like, they're witches.
Witches.
The Night Sisters in the Clone Wars cartoon were doing chants.
Yeah.
That's your complaint? The chant? Like
you're looking for something. The power of one. What chant did you want them to say?
Did you want
it in Latin? Did you want it in Latin? Is that what you wanted?
Like the power of the one chant is your complaint. Like I can dig if you complain about, I guess, the confrontation. Okay, I can see that, but like you complain about the chant. Like what are we doing here? Like
there are technical story beats that you can complain about this show with. The editing, the pacing, how the episodes are put together. Yeah. You can critique that
right
stuff.
There. It's in front of you.
Right. You don't have to go out here. The power of men. Yeah, that's a chant. Like, have you? How many? What
Right.
you think? We have real world. I don't want to mispronounce the religious name, but people who practice witchcraft as a religion
Wiccan.
in the real
Yeah,
world.
Wiccan.
Wiccan. Have you? How many have you been to? Have you gone to any of their ceremonies? Maybe they chant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the thing. It's like
in,
that's the line. Like
in Clone
guess.
Wars, Mother Townsend, they did a chant and brought their dead sisters back as an army. Like it's. There are real technical objective complaints to have about this show. You don't have to do these other things.
You don't gotta make up shit. Like I think that's at the end of the day, I think that's why I said at the start, it's like me and you have a civil conversation, because it's like you and a couple other people, y'all not bringing up bullshit stuff. You're just like, no, it could have did this technically, that technically, or it could have did this, and I'm like, that's the point.
Yeah. And
I can't argue that.
And also, if that stuff doesn't matter to you, I think I had a conversation with Demetrius once. He's like, I don't really care about lore connecting or things making sense. And I was like, that's fair. If you don't care about it, yeah. If you don't care about canon, if you don't care about previous lore, if you just want a good story right now, that's just as legit as somebody who says, I like a universe to make like that has canon. What am I trying to say? Connectivity or whatever.
Yeah, like, I mean, even old boy, like, because again, I didn't clock it. My man that was in the prequel trilogy, and he's in this 100 years ago. I was like, I mean, I guess I get it, but at the same time, it's like I don't like that race could be like Yoda, where they can probably live for a long time. I guess I don't know, like.
And to me, if they did it to make a point, if they did it willy-nilly, like they didn't think about it. Yes, that's a complaint, right? Yeah. If they did it because he's going to contribute to the story they have going later, like if he comes in season 2 or whatever, and there's a point for him being there, all right, tell your story. You know, legend stuff is not. I forget the level. There used to be different levels of Star Wars canon, and this is how complicated people think about it. And everybody doesn't want to think of that complicated.
Once George Lucas said, "I don't care about it," I was like, "Damn, he really just."
I think it was G level canon. I think we could call it G level canon, where anything I put on screen trumps anything else y'all had in books. I don't care. Like, and so like, if you change up his age, if you did it for a reason, go with it. Don't hate on it just because it's not what you knew before. Give it a chance. Now, if there was no plan and you just the one thing I did, and you maybe you got a different perspective on this than me. Were they trying to say she invented force choke? Was that what they're trying to say?
I never took it as them inventing force choke.
Or were they just saying she unlocked it and she could do it?
It seemed like as though they just said she just unlocked it and did it just out of a sense of anger. When she was like, so kills your mom. What?
Yeah, and
that took me by surprise that she just did it. I was like, oh shit. Like, okay, like, because it's kind of like it's kind of like Force Lightning, where it's like, oh shit, like, because you remember Palpatine did it in Return of the Jedi. We were like, oh shit, they can do that.
I remember seeing it.
And then when Dooku did it in Clone Wars, I was like, oh, so Dooku can do that shit. Oh,
yeah. I remember when I saw it as a kid, I was like, oh, snap. He don't need no lightsaber. He just shoot lightning.
Palpatine do it. That was like top tier. Like, oh, well, he is the head bad guy, so of course he knows how to do it. When Dooku did it, it was like, poof, I'm like, oh, damn.
I think so. Return of the Jedi has one of my favorite movies. I think this is one of the reasons I love Star Wars. Is I didn't know when I first saw it as a kid, I didn't know anything about other philosophies or anything like that. But when Luke throws away his lightsaber at the end, it's like I'm winning the moral spiritual battle. I'm throwing this lightsaber away. I'm not gonna give it the hate. Yeah, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. That is one of the most powerful lines ever. But I will admit, as a kid, when we started getting shocked, I'd be like, man, you might want to pick up that lightsaber.
Hindsight is crazy. Like that Obi-Wan, when Dooku did it to him, he just said, no.
I remember I was like, oh, so you can block it? You can block it? Okay. All right. Or even when Yoda did that thing where he directed it, and then the last time he like absorbed it or whatever, or maybe he absorbed it first, then he directed it. Whatever. I think
he threw it back at Palpatine. Then Palpatine's like, oh, okay, all right, cool.
Okay, Yoda, you can do that. All right, cool. Yeah, y'all don't need no lightsabers. But yeah, and I'm all for that. I think. Okay, so yeah, if they weren't saying that she invented it, I'm fine with it.
It just felt like it was in the moment emotions, and she just said,
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I thought they were trying to say, because he was like, she killed without a weapon. And I was like, wait, are they trying to say that she invented for it? And again, I could have
I took it
misunderstood
as
what they was.
I only took it as though I think they were just shocked that she did it. Because I mean, think about it, like OSHA up to that point, as much as she was conflicted in that moment, I think she was just surprised that she went in that direction and did it.
Mm.
And that's why I was kind of like, it's kind of interesting that May and her swap places in terms of like where they were at mentally.
Oh, that also didn't. All right. So yeah, I like that they switched places, but the reason, so they get away and he's like, oh, the Jedi can track you. And it's like, they don't know they got Bassel with them. And it's like, all right, well, I'll go with you and you don't kill my sister. All right, bet. All right, we got to micro mind. Wait, okay, well, we think the Jedi are gonna kill her, so why don't we take her with us and we can drop her anywhere else out? No, we're not dropping her off anywhere. Oh, okay.
I think the Jedi is gonna kill. Like that was weird too. They was like the Jedi would kill her. I'm like, I don't think the Jedi would rather keep her alive than kill her because like,
it was a weird leap, and I think
even if you didn't trust the Jedi, it's like I don't think they would kill her.
They're not gonna straight up
unless you assume that old girl from the Jedi Order was going to do it.
The green girl is so corrupt that she'll kill her.
She will kill her. And it's like, okay, maybe. But even then, I think she was more willing to let it rock if it was going to be, because like I said, I thought it was like fucked up, but it was like, yo, that was G as fuck. It was like she threw Soul under the bus. But at the same time, she tried to make it more admirable on why he did it.
He was a kind person. He was too kind, too zealous. But and like that whole eulogy flipped. I was like, oh, this ain't a eulogy.
It's like you threw this dude under the bus, but kind of made it seem as though he did it in a way that was like noble, but still wow.
And I kind of like that because even though I think Soul was too emotional at times, like I didn't understand why he felt so connected to OSHA, but when Soul was like, I have to submit myself to the Jedi, and Trinity was like, no, we ain't doing that. We ain't do that. That was some blue line type stuff. You know what I mean? And I could see
Soul was willing to be excommunicado at that moment. Like, fucked up.
Yeah. Right? And I can imagine if you're a moral person that wants to confess but can't, I can imagine that eats you up inside, right? It might make you a little unbalanced.
That's what makes it tragic in OSHA choking him out, because it's not like he expressed remorse like, yo, I'm really sorry I did that. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how to tell you because I didn't want to lose this connection that we had. And that's what makes him getting killed tragic, because it's like, oh, damn.
Yeah. Ooh. And I'll say this, he did a great job. He did a great job in that character. I keep hearing he learned English for this. I don't know whether he learned how to like phonetically, but he knew what
he was good.
The emotion behind the words were. So I forget. I call him. That's disrespectful. I call him Squid Games guy. But
I think it was who was he? Lee Jung-jae.
Lee Jung-jae. He did a great job. I want to see more stuff with him in it. I think a lot of times him and again Chimera, I know as Jason from The Good Place. So him and Jason, a lot of scenes they carried on their back with their intensity. Also, Jason's arms was jacked. like Bo was like, oh, I'll be topless in these.
Look, Chimera, to me, I love this character because it's like, you kind of, like I said, initially you're kind of like trying to figure out what's his game and stuff, and then to find out that he was just playing a sniveling person as like a masquerade, it's like, holy shit. But at the same time, it's kind of like I guess maybe because it wasn't as telegraphed as say Palpatine, where in like in Phantom Menace, where it's like, you're evil, you're Palpatine.
You're evil.
Palpatine, you're evil.
The guy right over there, evil.
The guy that's trying to get senator power, he's evil, guys. He's evil, But this guy was like, oh shit, I did not expect him to be. Wow, did not see that coming.
There's a what if series for Star Wars, a comic what if series kind of thing. I forget what they named it, but it's pretty much what if. And one of the things is like, I I forget the it's like what if Yoda faced Palpatine, but it starts off like Han goes with Luke to Dagobah, and Yoda's doing this whole like stupid alien type of thing, and Han's like, nah, he's Yoda, and it's like, what? Yeah, the kid right there is Yoda. Like he's tricking you, kid. And it's kind of like, I feel like if there was a Han Solo character in the prequels, they'd be like, yeah, he's a Sith Lord. Like, what? That's the Chancellor. No. That guy right there is a Sith Lord. No, nobody sees this? No, we're just gonna okay.
I think I think it's wild. It's kind of crazy in a way in how Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order started that sort of downfall of like Anakin in a way. Because if you think about it, Ahsoka was kind of the tether that kept him from going to the dark side in a way. And I didn't think about that until like when they did the last season and Ahsoka was going after Darth Maul and they had their conversation. And then when she left, like that's when that whole thing with the Revenge of the Sith started kicking in. It's like, oh shit, if she actually stuck around, he probably wouldn't have never like fed into Palpatine's bullshit. Like, damn.
I love the tragedy of this period of Star Wars. And I think that Ahsoka is a writing triumph. So whatever people might have against Dave Filoni, you cannot knock that. He there's a line where he comes in, he talks to the actress that voiced Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're introducing a Padawan for Anakin that's never been mentioned anywhere else. People are going to hate you. They're going to hate the character.
Oh,
they're not going to like it.
The Clone Wars, that like when they did that Clone Wars movie that led into
trash
the
movie.
look, I enjoyed the movie. I just felt like that's probably the wrong plot point to really give us these characters and stuff.
If that was a show,
and it's for kids. I get it. Kids love Star Wars. That's great. It's just that could have been a TV episode. And
that's what I was going to say. It was a trash movie, but if that had come on TV, all right, fine. But to make me go, I went to the theaters to see that, Chris. I went to the theaters to see that.
I enjoyed it enough, but like it's like, baby,
if it was on TV, like, I'll be with you. But it was not on TV. I had to sit in the theater to see that.
It was a throwaway movie, but like I said, the upside was like, well, at least we got a TV show out of it.
Yes, and I enjoyed the heck out of that TV show. And what they did was they took a character that they knew was going to get hate originally because you just made her up in the story. They're all made up, but you inserted in the story. But he said through good writing, they're going to make them love you, and they did that. She is one of the most popular characters. That Star Wars created of the new characters. I think she's just as popular as anybody else. And I think it's hard even to think about the prequels without thinking about Ahsoka. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's hard to think about Anakin without thinking about Ahsoka. And to see the tragedy of her leaving for justifiable reasons and Anakin's decline because of that. Did you watch Rebels? I don't know.
I watched all Rebels.
When she first feels Vader, they did Vader so well in Rebels.
Oh yeah, Rebels. Yeah, they did a really good. They showed just when Ezra and Kanan. When Vader comes off that ship and Ezra's like, "Yeah, we can fight him." Kanan was like, "Nah, bro, bro, we gotta go."
And they survived by dropping that walker on him. And he was like, "What kills this guy?" Kanan was like, "Not us."
Get the hell out of here. We're done.
In that trailer, when he was holding that thing with Ezra, he's like, "So your master told you could be a Jedi." And he's forcing Ezra's lightsaber to his throat. And he's like, he lied. It was like, and Vader, they did Vader so well in there. But another thing, they had that scene with Vader and Ahsoka where you get the cut in Vader's eyes, and it has that Anakin modulation. Yeah, and you see Ahsoka kind of go, "I will not leave you again." Mm-hmm. And he looks down, and you see the hate rise up. Then you will die. But you can tell the tragedy of that fight. That fight has so much weight, and also another good scene of that was when Ezra tried to fight Vader, and Ezra was like, "I'm not afraid of you," and like Vader like pip slapped him or something. He's like, no, Vader. He said, "I'm not afraid of you," and he's like, "Well, then you will die braver than most." And he like pip slapped Ezra, and Ezra tries to crawl away. And he's like, "Perhaps not."
I mean, look, even looking at it, was it Jedi Fallen Order? where my man
Yo.
he killed the seventh sister, and then my man tried to fight him, and it's like that whole scene when you play in the game.
It's a horror movie.
Yo, it's a horror movie because he killed. Because when old girl, you see the Rolodex in her head where she's like,
Oh.
okay, maybe I shouldn't be evil. You just see stab, and I'm like, yeah. Vader was like, nah, bro, you're not about. No, we're done. You already about to turn. Nope. And I'm like, oh, this is a horror movie at this point.
Yeah, I love. They have done it a few times, but they've treated Vader. This is Disney era too, people. Disney era has treated Vader like Jason Voorhees,
bro.
and
look, say what you will about. I love Rogue One. That final look, people felt that final scene with Vader was unnecessary. I'm like, no, you got to put that in there because, like, put it this way, even before Vader comes in. When they get the plans and they all warp drive, and all of a sudden that Star Destroyer warps in as they're going in, I was like, oh,
that slow shot to the thing.
I was like, yo, I didn't think that was ever possible until like it happened. It's like, oh shit, like, wow, damn.
And then the lights are flickering and it's off. You just hear the.
Dude, my man, when he was like, open the door, I got the plan. I'm like, nah, you're dead, dude. Just go ahead and slide them shits through the door.
It was a horror movie. It was a horror movie. As he just chopped it. One guy, he kept on the ceiling, grabbed the asters, he back sliced that guy on the ceiling. I was like, that's disrespectful. That's disrespectful.
As soon as he lift that lightsaber up, I'm like, oh, you're all dead. Yeah. There ain't no coming back from that, man.
They've done that scene in Rebels when Kanan was like, everybody else would breathe out cold air. Like, what is this? And that's the thing. And also Rebels when the first brother or whatever, he's hanging. Yeah. And he's like, he's like, no. There's worse things it does. And you're like, Vader has traumatized these folks.
Even to the point that in the Clone Wars, right? And it's two scenes with Vader. It's one where Darth Maul is sensing like, oh shit,
yeah,
this is what Palpatine wanted. Fuck, damn. Which I'm still feeling some way on us not getting the explanation of what Maul was up to after Palpatine killed his brother, and just I wish they kind of explained a little bit of like how he was able to just dart off and escape.
I know there's a comic. I haven't read it though. I think. From what I know about it, it's something like Mother Talzin's ghost gets him out, and that's I think Palpatine and Grievous like kill whatever the ghost remnants is.
And that's how they meet him in Rebels, basically. Like but like that, and also Vader when he gets to the crash site, and he's kind of like, I know Ahsoka's alive. I don't have no proof, but we'll see each other again. Like it's a very dope scene. It's just silence, and he just walks.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, this is.
And I think, and I also like. So that's one of the like. So I like the initial fight with him and Kenobi and the Kenobi series. Where he like drags him through the fire and whatever. I thought that was dope. I do think the writers of that show didn't get that Obi-Wan wasn't a better fighter than Vader. Vader's confidence got over it. Like Anakin is like a prodigy of swordsmanship.
Obi-Wan's just a wise person that knows. It's kind of like the veteran versus the rookie, where it's like, yeah, you're a great fighter, but I know some tricks of the trade here.
I always say if you had to fight your younger self, and you might not have your younger self stamina, but my younger self gonna mess up, and when younger self messes up, I'm a capitalize.
Yeah, people complain about like the Darth Maul and Obi-Wan fight in Rebels, but I'm like, no, that was perfect because it didn't need to be some big win. It's like, no, you got the veteran talent versus the other guy. Just keep it as and
it was a real. I always forget the guy's name, but he did a great job of choreographing. Like he choreographed Phantom Menace, that fight scene, and he did it where he was like, "There's only one answer to every move that we do in this thing," and so it's like pop, 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 and so I like the fact of. Because if you notice in that scene, he goes to his regular stance, the what's the name, and then he switches up the Qui-Gon stance, and the fight plays out like the Qui-Gon Darth Maul fight, except he doesn't catch him, he catches him, and also that's a Jedi scene where Maul had taken Obi-Wan's love interest, had taken his master, had caused all this death and destruction. He still held him. You know what I mean? Like he still held them in his last moments. And then even when he was like, "Tell me, because I know you're here for a reason. Is it the chosen one?" And Obi-Wan goes, and he's like,
I knew it.
"I knew it. He will avenge us." And you could tell Obi-Wan's like, "You still didn't get the point. Like you still didn't. You're still stuck in that trauma." But it's okay, man. It's over.
It's cool.
And, yeah, and it's kind of like you're one of the last remnants from my that world, and it's cool, man. Did
you see the I think the look for the new Star Wars show that's dropping? I think it's what the fuck was the name of it? The Skeleton Crew.
I haven't seen the trailer for it. I know it was coming out. Did they release that over the weekend?
No, they did like the first look of some of the characters and stuff. I mean, it looks interesting. I like the concept of it and stuff. I am curious and stuff, what is going to be about. I think that's going to be the one. Obviously, like we talked about, there's certain groups that are like, ugh, Star Wars kids. And I'm like, Star Wars has always been for kids. What are we doing here? But I don't know what the basis of it. It look, the fact that it looks like just like Andor is kind of far removed from the Jedi stuff, and it's just about just people surviving in the Star Wars world. I'm like, I'm fine with that.
That's a good story.
That tracks.
There was going to be a Star Wars game that took place in the underworld of Coruscant, like I forget what it's called. I think it was level 33 or 33, something like that.
Outlaws is looking pretty good from what I heard.
I heard people complaining about it, and I looked at the trailer and I was like, "This looks like a fun game."
Well, the people that are complaining, it's legit complaints because it's an Ubisoft game. So, like, if you know anything about Ubisoft and open world games, it's hit and miss. Because sometimes they're open world games. It's like it's huge, but it's really a whole lot of nothing happening. It just feels like you're doing more so chore stuff than actual like a fleshed out world. So it's like, yeah, it's open world, but it's a lot of repetitive missions here. And it's like, I think a lot of people are hoping that this Outlaws game, it's more to it than that. It's actually more, because like I said, I think you can travel off planet to different places. And I'm like, all right, that's interesting. So we'll see how good it is, but
don't go rush out and buy it is what you're trying to say.
I mean, but right now, everybody's first impression is it's good, but I think everybody's waiting for the other shoe to drop on what makes it bad, which I'm like, I don't blame them, because again, Ubisoft games, if you look at their history, it's like up and down, up and down, up and down. So
yeah, and I want to say something. When you're saying the Star Wars is for kids, yeah, Star Wars has always been for kids. It's always been a fantasy, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean adults can't enjoy it. I mean, there's a lot for everybody to enjoy there. And I mean, like, to me, Avatar: The Last Airbender is a show for kids. But when it was airing, I think the people that were watching it was like ages 8 to 34. And I still say that Avatar: The Last Airbender is probably one of the best American television shows ever made. You know what I mean? Like, I want Star Wars to succeed. I think they need a direction. I think they need to stick with it. Even if your direction doesn't fit with what, like, even if it's something I don't want, even if it's not
stand in it.
Stand in it, write your story. It'll work or it won't work. You remember there was a Batman cartoon that came out maybe like 10 years ago now, but it was more like Adam West cartoon.
Batman Brave the Bold. I love that show.
Brave the Bold.
Brave the Bold was dope as shit.
They did an episode where he was talking about how maybe this isn't for you, maybe this is the one that you grew up on, but this is our version of it. And I was like, yeah, this doesn't have to be the grim 90s Batman you're doing. This is this Batman. Yeah. And you could give it a chance or you can't, and then just wait until something else comes along with you. I'm curious, where do you think the health of Star Wars is right now? Like, if you had to give it a health grade, what would you give it?
Before they started doing the series, it was sitting at like a C. Like, it's doing fine. Like, it was just doing fine. I just felt like Rise of Skywalker was where I was kind of like, my alarm kind of went off, because I felt like they made the biggest mistake of trying to placate everybody, because a segment of people didn't like the direction of The Last Jedi. And I'm like, fuck them. If they didn't like it, keep going. Because obviously, it made the money that it did. I think more people would have respected you if you just kind of just kept going, instead of trying to go back to the nostalgia well of, all right, make Rey a Skywalker. Also do this. And it's like, no, just don't bring back Palpatine. Just do your story and let the chips fall what it's for, right? And I think it started getting better once they started doing the Mandalorian. Everybody loved the Mandalorian, and they did Andor. People liked Andor. Again, like I said with Book of Boba Fett, I see what they were doing. They saw they saw how people loved the rehab of Boba Fett from the Mandalorian. So whatever you felt about Book of Boba Fett, you still came out of it like, all right, it was okay. Could have been better, but fine. People were digging. Look, I'm one of those people that me and my co-host Dwayne, we saw the Solo movie, right?
Mhm.
I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I could understand people that was like, it felt like it was doing too much a little bit. And it's like, okay, I can see that. Like, you didn't have to explain the parsecs thing and stuff. I mean, it's fine. That's how he did it. Fine. Whatever. Right. I did love Rogue One. Rogue One was fucking dope as shit. Like if you told me like this is how to get the get the Death Star plan, I'd be like, this is stupid. But I think what I loved about it was they did a good job of showing the state of what the universe was that led to the Death Star being made. Like, well, how did the Death Star get made? Oh, this was. And Vader didn't really like when Vader chokes out my man and tells him like, you got these aspirations, but also the fact that Vader himself was never really big on the Death Star. Like he was just like, this is causing more trouble. And I like the aspect that the Death Star was something that the Senate never knew about.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I thought that was great that they really kept that shit a fucking secret from the Senate.
It was a mining disaster, whatever they call it, the planet Blue.
Yeah, it's a mining disaster. Yeah, mining disaster. Yeah, because I think even the Bad Batch, like Tarkin was like, yeah, this shit wasn't supposed to get out. Like, this is supposed to be a secret. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to scuttle this shit and all resources go into the Death Star plan. So have fun.
Yeah.
It's those moments that's why I like Rogue One, the idea of what was the galaxy at during this period of time and what led to the Death Star plans. All right, cool. Like you sold me on that. So I would say right now it's sitting at a solid B. It could be better, but it's like you're slowly getting there, but it's like just fine tune it. Just keep fine tuning it. Like I said, this Skeleton Crew show is actually really good. Cool. Like just keep going. If this whole rumor of them doing another group of Star Wars movies surrounding Rey is greenlit, cool. Hopefully you tell a good story so that people can actually, I think you and other people say it. If you make a story that makes me like Rey, all right, cool. Got you. Cool. It's far removed from all that stuff. You make us like Rey, cool. You're on a good path here. That's it. That's
good writing can fix anything, in my opinion. Good writing and good execution can fix anything.
I mean, we see it in comics, we see it everywhere. Like you can rehab a character and make me like, oh, okay, cool, I like you.
Yeah, cool. And sometimes it takes the character being in the right writer's hands, if that makes sense, to bring that character out. I think Force Awakens, I was like, all right, I didn't like that this was a kind of a retelling of New Hope, but I'm gonna give it a chance because you know what? That scene where Rey is looking, she's cleaning some parts, and she looks up at this older lady, and she's cleaning parts, and you could tell they didn't say it, but she was like, "Oh man, that might be my future. Like if I stay here,
if I still stay here, this is me." Like it's those things.
And I think that Rey, to me, had one of the best intros of any Star Wars character. I thought that she had a lot of charisma when she's bringing out force powers without training. I was open to like, all right. Fine. Maybe we'll get the explanation and we'll go from there. Like I thought maybe she was mind wiped or something, but whatever it was, I was open to it. I'm one of the people that didn't like The Last Jedi. I think the casino, that third plot of the casino planet and stuff didn't really work for me.
I get what they were going for. See, here's my thing with the casino planet. I get what they were going for. The whole idea of there being people that are war profiteers. That makes sense. Because I mean, even I think wasn't there Rebels? They gave us the origins of like the fucking Y fighters and all that stuff. Like there was somebody that made it. And it's like, no, that tracks. That makes sense. Because obviously if you have a war effort, there's going to be people that are going to make things that's going to benefit one side or the other. So, hey, whoever gives me more money, I'll make it for you.
The idea is good. I think it's good in another project. Like I think it's good in another.
Last Jedi, it's like, so cool. There's war profiteers. So what's the where we going with
Yeah.
this? It's like,
Yeah, it was like
oh,
making
Benicio del Toro, he betrays you. Cool. This
yeah.
went nowhere.
There's a story for that. I just didn't think it there. I also think my own personal point is like I think they purposely took Ray and Finn, split Ray and Finn away, and I thought Finn had such great chemistry with Ray. I also think he had such great energy or chemistry with Poe, and I think that took it down a notch in the movies thing. And also, I am willing. I saw Sam. Forgive me if I remember his name wrong. Sam Whitworth. He voiced Darth Maul. He
I think, Sam, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He had a thing of saying like, "Hey, if you like to see," he did this whole great interview, and he's like, "Fans that like to see a character deconstructed, I get it, but also fans that go, seeing your hero that reformed his father, who was a genocidal murder, like he was murdering a genocide, reformed him, and then holding a weapon to a child because he had a dream. That also, I got to understand how that ruins that character for a lot of people too." And he's like, "That's who I'm in. Where that's not Luke Skywalker to me." But he said, I think both people have a right to feel that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm in that camp. And like I told you, the Luke Skywalker throwing away his lightsaber thing is in a weird way why I do therapy now. Like I think it was just show me. No, I mean, I know it sounds silly, but to me it was like I don't have to take on this generational curse. I don't have to, follow in these. I don't have to let anger and negative emotions make me react. You know what I mean? And I think to me that was a powerful scene. So to me, I know I'm biased against that Luke. So I'm admitting that. Yeah. But I still think there was something there to like about Rey. I think that Rise of Skywalker was just a mess. It looks like it was a movie made by committee, I think. Like, or there was no real vision there. Then you get to Andor. I love Andor. Rogue One. I love Rogue One. I think it's a shame that I think Andor didn't get as much attention as it deserved.
A lot of people, it's kind of weird when it comes to the political aspect. I think some people, it's like they enjoy it, but it's like, I want action. It's like, no, I get it. It's just, to me, the drama aspect is what makes it work so much. I mean, the drama aspect of Rogue One is what we love, because it's like, hey, it makes sense to have this idea of the rebellion. It wasn't as organized as we thought it was. Like, there was infighting in the rebel organization because everybody's all about like, yo, we got to hit the Empire hard. And it's like, well, we don't have the bodies to do it. Like, come on.
Right. Like, and these are guerrilla fighters. One thing I like about Rogue One was showed Andor kill that rebel spy because his leg got hurt or whatever. Yeah. That was a cold moment, but you understood why he did it. You know what I mean?
Like, this is war. Like, shit ain't gonna be clean. Like, he tells old girl, like, this is never not gonna be clean. Like, you're gonna have to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, which is also that guy's speech in Andor, the guy that's the antique dealer that's doing all that stuff. His speech about I am fighting for a sunrise. I'm never going. That speech was. Whoever wrote that,
hope they got a fuck. He was like, "Look, I'm doing whatever I can to get this shit popping because I am not loving this life of under the Empire rule. Nah,
not at all." And I think it was a great series. I think Mandalorian season 1 and season 2 were excellent. I think their story naturally ended in season 2, and then I think you could have started up with a season 3 following Bo-Katan and her group. So I think season 3 was rough for me. And then you go into Ahsoka, and I've been thinking about like doing a TikTok or a YouTube showing how I personally would have reconstructed Ahsoka to make it flow better. And I think about doing that again for Acolyte. Like, I think there's a good show here if it's just reconstructed differently. But I think these shows overall, like Kenobi, I don't understand why they didn't have a budget. I don't know where, or at least it didn't look like it had a budget. You might correct me if you know the numbers, but it didn't look like it had a budget.
I mean, they had a decent budget, but you can definitely tell there was a lot of retread on certain things. I mean, I don't need another season of Kenobi, to be honest. I think the story that they told works. It worked put this way. It worked as a one-off story. I don't need any more seasons. You got your endpoint, cool, fine. That's
And
it.
it seems like a lot of these Disney shows were made to be movies, and then they scrapped the movie and then tried to expand it into a show, and it didn't always work. I don't know if that's the truth.
I mean, I can see it. I think with Kenobi, if they did a movie, I don't know if people would have went to the theater to see it. Honestly,
no, I don't know that. I'm saying it looks like it was written as a movie.
no, I think Kenobi was supposedly supposed to be a movie years ago, and obviously years later they revisited it and was like, make it a TV show. Which
And
that's the thing. That's the thing that happens in Hollywood. Like a lot of times, there's projects that got shelved, and then they end up coming back and using it as like a TV show or springboarding into something else.
and I think
Because I think Arrow did that. They had a script for the. I think you remember hearing about it. Like it was supposed to be this Supermax DC movie that was supposed to be about Green Arrow inside one of the prisons with all these DC villains, and it's supposed to be escaping. And they used that as the basis for, I think, the second to last season of Arrow, where Ollie's in prison, and they used some of those ideas in that show. So that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, and it's fair. I just think that sometimes all the pieces don't fit if you don't really, you know what I mean? Like it's just some things have to flow, and so you have that. I think Ahsoka again. I think it had better than Kenobi. Had a lot of good bones into it. I think some things need to be tweaked a little bit. Boba Fett, I think Disney's afraid of just making a bad guy or anti-hero show
be
character.
an anti-hero.
Yeah, and like they should let Boba Fett be Boba Fett. The guy that shot that guy on the throne and just tossed his body off the throne and just sat down, that's the show I want.
If they didn't interject the Mandalorian stuff, I would have loved it to have been just it leading to that showdown between, Boba and Cad Bane. Is like, oh, Cad's coming through because he ain't digging Boba taking over. It's simple, but I think in Disney's head they feel, no, we gotta make this big. I'm like, no, you don't. Like,
no, and it's
keep the shit simple.
It's a Western though, right? Like, oh, you have this gunfighter that's really good, but he knows this guy's better. You know what I mean? That's
people like that. Like, yes, you can still keep the evil Wookiee that Boba ends up eventually getting him on. I like
that design. That evil Wookiee's design, I love. I
like everything that they did in Book of Boba Fett. I loved it because it's this story of Boba trying to get people on his side now because he's the head dude in charge. Cool.
It just need a little bit of smarter writing and let him be an anti-hero. Like it just need a little bit of that.
Because, like I said, to your point, like you said, it looked like it was supposed to be him and Cad Bane facing off in the finale, which would have been great. And I think Disney got gun-shy and was like, bring the Mandalorian and just have it to where the Empire has this big machine come down and it's everybody. It's like, this is a lot here.
You're doing too much. Make it about Boba Fett taking over the underworld. That's a show, a game, a comic, whatever, right there. Make it about Boba Fett taking over the underworld.
Andor, like
gangster shit.
Because even Andor, to me, that final episode, obviously we're getting a second season that leads into Rogue One, but even that finale, even though it ended on a big bang, it wasn't like this big blowout finale. It was just like, yeah, you had these people on this planet that pushed back against the Empire on that planet. Cool, makes sense. They didn't like the Empire occupying it. It was everybody protesting it, and you have my man escaping from prison, with everybody else, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. I dig this. This is great. It's subtle, but it works.
Andor story is Andor versus the system. Andor trying to make it in the system, Andor trying to get around the system, Andor getting caught up in the system, Andor trying to get a loaf of bread, and a cop messes with you. That is Andor's. You know what I mean? That's
and Boba Fett could have been like, hey, look, he faced off against Cad Bane for power.
Yeah.
Boom.
Hey, they introduced those for some reason. They introduced those twin huts for a second, and it could have been, hey, the huts say that this is their territory, but Boba Fett, you got to defend it against that.
Cool.
Hey, you got a little rep against you, so they hire this other gunfighter to take you down. So if you deal with all these other guys, you still got to deal with Cad Bane.
If you feel that if you feel you have to have the Empire involved, you can get Cad Bane to be like, all right, y'all want this planet? All right, give me some stormtroopers and whatever and stuff, and we can do this. All right, cool. I can dig that. I can dig that idea because Cad Bane has worked with the Empire.
Yeah,
We've seen it before. It makes sense. It tracks.
And go from there. And with Boba Fett, you could have done a bunch of stuff with. He looks like a clone. There's clone troopers around there. You could have made it where you wanted to make what I would have done is if he needed help, I would have got that Wookiee. I love that design. Some I love I forget her name now, but May from Agents of Shield.
Yeah.
But also I'd have had Boba Fett go, I've always had a disdain for my brothers, but all you vets out there that are struggling and everything like that, like I have a home for you. And bring, how badass it would have been to see some like clone troopers, that's
what made me kind of like, in a way, that's little moments in Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series where we see that clone trooper that was like a poor bum on the ground. I like that little twist because it's like, yeah, that tracks because there were some clone troopers, and even in Bad Batch put it out there, them clone troopers pretty much got kicked to the curb. Like, hey, y'all, you're done. Get out of here.
So you can imagine that Boba Fett called upon the vets of this. I'm just saying there were story ideas. The stories could have been there. So I think the series have hurt. Besides the animated stuff, because I love Tales of the Jedi. I thought Tales of the Jedi was great.
Yeah, those little small series, even the recent one with the Sith was actually pretty good to expand on Old Girl like that. Yeah. Was actually pretty. Actually, I meant to mention this too. Battlefront 2. I love the story mode for Battlefront 2 because I like the idea of seeing what the fuck was the Empire up to after the Battle of Endor. Because I think there's a lot of people that thought after Battle of Endor, oh, the Empire was done, and it's like, no, they weren't. The Empire, they weren't. I would put it this way, and that's part of the reason why I like Force Awakens. Yeah, the Empire wasn't done, and yes, the Republic came up, but it's like the Empire just kind of just fucked off and was like, all right, we'll regroup. We ain't dead. We'll regroup somewhere. And I like Battlefront 2 and how they took that storyline of like, yeah, basically the Empire kind of regrouped, and even the characters that you play as, they get kind of disillusioned. Like, hold on, we're destroying our own planet for what? Nah, I'm out of here. Like, this is stupid.
And the Emperor having plans of like, if I can't have it, nobody can type of stuff.
Was it Operation Cinder or whatever and stuff like? Nah, fuck this.
And I think, like, what? And that's what I mean about, like, I think Disney is doing too many things either by committee or doing it too safe. Mm-hmm. You know what? There's an organic way. Don't make the rebels again, because the Republic isn't the rebels. The Republic is the system at this point. Yeah. The Empire would be the rebels. Tell that story.
And that's what makes Mandalorian great, because the Republic actually has starfighters, and they have you got something there. That's great. Because even in Ahsoka, we see that. So clearly the Republic does have a military in place that is kind of out of the ashes of the rebels in a way and stuff. Yeah. Because I kind of sort of did like a little bit in the movies where the Republic's like, look, we can't necessarily maneuver in the way that we did when we were the rebels, but we will let you guys over here operate kind of as rebels a little bit, as our black ops a little bit in a way, which is cool, but yeah,
that would have made sense. I would have put, not that I'm in charge of anything, but I would have put like I'd put Leia in charge of the Republic, like she's the chancellor right now, right?
Yeah.
I would have had where before the Empire, the Republic didn't have a standing army. So maybe some of the systems are like, hey, we want to get back to this where there's no centralized army. And Leia's like, well, there's still remnants of the Empire out there in the Outer Rim. There's shogunates pretty much of Imperial forces or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna back fund this smaller organization and make them that. Like, okay, they still use the tagline of rebels, even though they're they're funded by the Republic. Yeah. And I think that's the story you could have gone with. Yep. I don't know. I just think there's things they could have done if they just stopped and made some of this more fluid.
It's like taking a step back, just like, hey, you got something good here. Just take an assessment.
How about Star Killer Base? No. We've used Death Stars. No. Stop it. We're gonna come up with other things.
I don't mind Star Killer Base, but at the same time, it does bring up questions like, so nobody in the galaxy noticed a big ass fucking planet that's being built up like a giant Death Star.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
I mean, I like the idea of it. It's great. I mean, hey, giant, okay, cool, but like nobody noticed that.
You could believe that when it comes to the Empire doing that, right? Empire is vast, so they have all the resources. They could take over a system, be like, we're making the 2 Death Stars or whatever.
Yeah.
These people, none of y'all noticed this? Nope. We're just gonna okay. It's powered by a sun. Oh, okay. All right. Where are the resources coming from this? like who's?
That's why I was like, I mean, look, I don't even care about the resources because I can see the Empire kind of like, all right, we're going to retreat over here and we'll build up our shit. And then, like I said, even with the idea of them, like maybe they went to another planet and just said, fuck it, we're just going to take all these resources over here and build our stuff up. All right, cool. That's still that's a lot of things to really that's a leap that you have to kind of like.
So even if you did that in that one, right? Okay, you did it again. Don't bring up Death Star technology in every other movie after that. It's like y'all didn't know what you had.
I mean, that's why like a lot of people. Like I was glad they didn't do it in Last Jedi, but then when you get to Rise of Skywalker, it's like, so we have a bunch of.
Oh no, they did it in Last Jedi too. Remember they said, oh no, we have Death Star technology on these things, so we can blow up their bunker. They did that too. I remember.
Well, they had that one cannon, but
yeah,
I'm fine with that because that makes sense that you would have something that could do that. But like the shit,
it's fine to have a cannon.
The shit in Rise of Skywalker that got me was like, so all these Star Destroyers have Death Star. That's kind of a stretch here. It's kind of wild and okay. This whole planet has a lot of Star Destroyers, and they got a lot of personnel on all these Star Destroyers.
Nobody knew this was here, huh? Like nobody.
Nobody just chilling on all these Star Destroyers and got billions of people here.
Okay. So there's a suspension of disbelief. Yeah. And there's other ways to go. You know, in Knights of the Republic, the original one, the big super weapon just created was a factory that just could make a fleet of ships and whatnot. Like that's a cool super weapon.
You need a force meditation in order to get everybody to like.
Yeah, but I guess the point is like people are saying, oh, this killed Star Wars. This did not kill Star Wars. It didn't kill Star Wars.
It's a roll bump, but you're fine.
Yeah, I just think you need to get somebody on there, do really good writing, really strong writing. I want all the diversity you could put into Star Wars, but don't have diversity trump having writing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can make a turnip interesting. Like, we deserve good writing.
The diversity. It's not even that the diversity is a problem. Diversity is fine. I think it's like, okay. And it goes back to what we said about the Acolyte. It's like, okay, there are many things you can critique about the show. But if you're starting off with diversity as the reason, it's like kind of missing the point, because even if you made this show all white people, it still would have had the same fucking problems.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, get the writing straight. I don't care. I want to see people. I mean, I want to see light-skinned, green-eyed guys on the show. I'm good with that. So
some of the people I kind of look sideways because I'm like, I've seen this shit that some of y'all like. Y'all let a lot of shit go, and yet the diversity is the line. Like, come on, bro. Like, stop.
And don't think that I was talking to somebody else, a big Doctor Who fan, and she was like, she didn't like the Timeless Child. And I was like, I get that. I don't want that answered. I don't want those questions answered either. You know, we like the mystery for the last however many decades of Doctor Who. Now, if you go in, it's like, why is the Doctor black woman? Well, it's Time Lord that changes their appearance whenever they die. Why wouldn't they be a black woman at some point?
Be anything they want. Like, that's the purpose of it. It's like, you know.
Yeah. So there's two different things. What I'm just saying is like, get the writing straight, get the writing and execution straight, and then have honest actors, because you know what? Then you'll shut everybody else up. You know what I mean? And it's just like this. If to me the big litmus test or whatever this is like, oh, the choreography is trash. What do you mean? It's a Star Wars movie. I mean, Star Wars project with like it's good. Have you seen kung fu films? Like,
like me and the guys, we were talking about this. Like the new MK, I think MK1 had the a DLC trailer come out for like the new story. I think Chaos Reigns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sector and Cyrax, they're gender swap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've played MK1, the storyline, the whole basis of it is that Liu Kang, since he's the new Elder God now, he basically reimagined this world to be peaceful to a degree. It ain't as crazy ridiculous as his old world was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense. So I'm like, well, of course Liu Kang would make it to where like Cyrax and Sector is gender swap, but like they're different people now. Like the circumstances are way different now compared to the old ones. And the first reaction was, why are they women? I'm like, the fuck does it matter? Like,
right.
Like if like whatever they write the characters, that's what matters. Like, who cares? Like, what? Like, that's what you pinpoint at. It's a new world. It ain't the old world. Like, if the writing is bad, it ain't going to be because they're gender swapped. It's just because they wrote the characters bad. Like,
right.
That's it.
What do you complain about? Like, what is your actual complaint? What is your actual complaint?
Women, and I'm like, yeah, God, we were here. Like, I would understand you if you just focus on the right things. And I think that's at the heart of it, because it's like people mistake the aspect of, well, I can't critique. I'm like, no, you can critique, but just don't be stupid about it. Like, come on, like.
And if you watch the Acolyte, the witches make mistakes too. You know what I mean? The Green Jedi one with the whip lightsaber, she's pretty much the bad guy of the series if you think about it.
Hey, look, that bad guy is an understatement. It's like,
yeah.
That's why I said I need to know. Like, I want to see her and Kamir. Like, because Kamir, when he was staring off in the cut when she was examining Osha's body, and he was staring off in the cut like he was about ready to fucking attack her ass, and then she looks up and he's gone. I was like, oh, they're about to fight later on.
When he looked up, she's like, "Oh crap, she's here!" and put his helmet on. she traumatized. She must have whipped that boy like he was Toby.
You saw them lashes on his back. I was like, oh, they got history. Like,
yeah. So, and if you think about it, Saul is he messed up, but he's a tragic figure in this. Like, you know what I mean? You know, so I just want to get away from the gender blaming things like that, and like I said, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, all these sci-fi shows have been quote unquote woke before mainstream got a hold of them.
That's the thing. You know, it's like Discovery. Like, a great example of this. I think we've talked at length about Discovery, right? And I'm like, there are things you could talk about Discovery, but like, guys, stop saying woke. And it's like, bro, Star Trek has always been very progressive in the things that they've done. Like, they've used alien. Look, and this is what makes it funny. My favorite Star Trek movie is Undiscovered Country. I put that shit over Wrath of Khan, bar none. Mm-hmm. The reason why I like it is that it hits on the jingoist and the racism of Kirk, because Kirk, for understandable reasons, hates the Klingon. And there's one moment where Spock is asking him, like, well, Kirk, they're going to die. Let them die. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, this motherfucker, he is all for genocide. But at the same time, it's like, you understand it because the Klingon killed his son for no fucking reason. They didn't have to kill. But like, Christopher
Lloyd fucked him.
It's like, so when Kirk is like, yo, let them die, it's like, no, you understand his anger. It ain't right, but you understand why he doesn't trust the Klingons. And that's what makes it even more funny when they're asking him, yeah, we kind of want you to broker a peace deal with the Klingons. He's like, why me? No, I'm the wrong guy for this.
Look, that scene is so on point. Because one, it has the guy that plays Cisco's father, there's the Admiral. And two, like Kirk is getting there, like, we about to stand down. And then, like, after they all leave, it's like when your best friend is like a brother to you, like, overstepped. He's like, you volunteered?
Me? No. Why would you do this? I
you
like them.
Volunteered?
You know I hate them. You know I hate them, right? Like, why would you? No, I don't care for them. Like, and it's like, again, you don't consign the racism of Kirk, but it's like it's there, and it's just weird to me when people talk about politics and all this stuff. It's like, did you guys not pay attention to like Star Trek? Because that shit was in your face.
Well,
like, yeah, it might not have been black people or whatever, but it's like it's Klingons, it's a race. Like, come on, like.
And you got to think the writers that wrote Star Trek, the writers that wrote Star Wars, the writer Tolkien who wrote Lord of the Rings, they were shaped by the issues of their day and youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Gene Roddenberry fought in World War II, I think, and so when he made Star Trek, he was like, "No, I want to picture a world where it's just peace." Tolkien wrote Sam. Apparently, Sam is based on his subordinate that he thought was the best guy ever, and that's who he based that on. Like, we wouldn't have made it through if it wasn't for this guy. And so like you had these things of like racism, and that's what we grew up with, was the writers telling us their stories based on the things they had to deal with or they saw growing up. And so now you're seeing the stories of the things that people faced in our generation growing up, of things, and younger growing up. And so I feel like, just calm down. You can critique a lot of things about
Discovery has issues.
Yeah,
the racism and the politics ain't one of them. It's other things that show that, like, I can understand people having gripes with, but I think it's funny because I think universally, as much as there's that segment of people that hate the show, they still stuck it out. They still got fuck it. We'll stick it out till its end point. I mean, look at Picard. Like, universally, everybody fucking hated the shit out of the first season, even the second season. But what happened? Third season, everybody's like, oh my God, why couldn't the first and second season be like the third season? But that comes with sticking it out, unfortunately, because it goes to your point. Sometimes you need to allow to a show to grow. And like you said, that first season of Angel was rough. Trust me, folks. Like, you go back and it's rough.
It's a rough
But like, you crossed your fingers and hope maybe it'll get better. And it did. It did. And that's what happened with Picard. We got to the third season, like, oh my God, finally, like, fuck, like.
They tried some stuff. I think a lot of that was Patrick Stewart wanting to do certain Patrick Stewart things in there, and he's putting the work. He's putting the work throughout his career to get a chance to try some stuff. You know what I mean? And even season two was also a rough season, Picard, but that
it wasn't as rough as the first season, but it was like, I see what you're doing. It just
But there was a conversation between him and Q at the end that made that whole season worth it for me. That last interaction with him and Q, I was like, I could have watched. You could have made it just a show about Q and Picard.
The conversation, a coffee break.
Yeah, and I'd have been here for it. And then we got season 3, which I think is mostly universally loved. And sometimes it's just, guys, I get it. These shows mean a lot to people. These characters mean a lot to people. But at the end of the day, these are humans doing the best they can, and they're not always going to knock it out the park.
They're faulty, and it is what it is. It's just, and like, I think that's the summation of it. Is I think that's the thing with Acolyte. It was just kind of funny, like when episode 5 hit. I just laughed at the group chat with all of us, like, "Yo, this was dope as fuck."
Right. Yeah, and that's
even Lucas was just like, yo, this is dope as shit. Like, the fuck? Like,
and that's what I kind of like. Even though we'll argue and we'll debate and we'll do things like that, I don't think anybody in our chat is an ism of like, I hate this because like, and I think most people can defend, even if you don't agree with it, most people can defend their point or maybe discuss their point of view, and you're like, I get it.
All right, cool, fair enough.
I don't agree, but I get it. Or even like, oh, you know what? That's a good point. I'll change my mind. I think what we're trying to get into is have conversations, have discourse, talk to somebody and see why they like it. And if they like it,
it's not going to help.
No. And so many people are using you. So many people are trying to build up that hate. Yes, feed me your hate. Bring me your hate. And because they get clicks on it, they get views on it. They make the people who are just people, the worst people ever. They're not.
They're not arguing in good faith on either side. Because it's like, look, I get if you extremely like something, but it's like, hey, bring it in a little bit. Because look, Dwayne and Eris, they get on me because, oh man, you love the MCU. It's like, yeah, but like I can recognize if it's like, hey, this shit got issues. Like, I will forever stand 10 toes down. I love the Marvels because I love the fact that it made people actually like Carol this time around, and it was to the benefit of Kamala and what's her face to be the characters that she had a connection with. You had Kamala, who was fangirl over Carol for rightful reasons because that's her hero, and then you had the other side of it where that was her sort of pseudo daughter in a way,
Yeah.
and it made you like really like Carol now because now you understand like why she is who she is. And it's like, thank you, like, you know, because it's like as much as I love the first Captain Marvel film, it's like I can understand people that didn't like Carol, and I understand that movie functioned as a way of doing the trope of the person lost their memories, so they're going to act very cold and distant and da 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 da. But like the Marvels really made you like, oh, I actually like this character now. Cool,
Yeah,
great.
and I think what it is. One, it's really hard not to like Kamala. Like the actress that plays her is.
Oh yeah.
So like just I liked her show. I think the worst thing about her show was that they tried to fit 2 seasons into 1 season. Like like I thought that was I think the Marvels, I even think Captain Marvel, I think
Monica Rambeau. My bad.
Monica
Yeah,
Rambeau.
I was blanking out. I was like Monica, yeah. But they made
I
Monica and Kamala really make you like Carol. It was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Dope.
And I think that I think Marvel has, I don't know. I think that's another 2-hour thing.
It's the Disney Star Wars thing where it's like they have good ideas, but they're not perfect. People looked at me sideways when I said this. I was like, if I'm really being objective, post Endgame, I think Secret Invasion is like the worst project that Marvel Studios had easily. Like at least every project that they had, there was a merit to it that you enjoyed. Like Eternals, there was a lot of things you can enjoy out of that film, even with its faults.
Yeah.
Falcon Winter Soldier, same thing. WandaVision, same thing. What If, same thing. Even like Moon Knight, which I thought would have been better off as a movie, there was something there that you can at least like, all right, you kind of got me interested. But Secret Invasion, it was like, I want to like you, but like that's the only project I have not gone back to rewatch again because there's nothing in it for me to want to rewatch again.
There's not one YouTube scene that I would look up from Secret Invasion to not laugh at. Who greenlit that? And that's what I mean. Like, I don't know who's making these decisions. I don't know who.
Like the ideas are there. It's like I kind of with you with Secret Invasion, where it's like the bones are there, but it's like it's not hitting to where I can at least keep with it to kind of like, all right, I can maybe it's like, and I think I even said it when we did a review of the Marvels. I was like, I felt like what they were trying, because I know COVID played a little bit in why they had to kind of redo Secret Invasion, but I felt like Secret Invasion was supposed to tie into the Marvels to kind of answer the whole Kree Skrull thing. And because the Secret Invasion went belly up the way they did, they looked at the Marvels like, yeah, let's rewrite some stuff to kind of so weird.
Is that what happened?
I feel and that's why I felt like in the Marvels they really ditched that Kree Skrull thing. Like, yeah, going ahead and have them go over to where Thor and them are and just ignore that. And I'm like, damn, they really had something. They just
because I think Secret Invasion ended just before Marvels came out, right? If I'm
it was Secret Invasion, and then it was supposed to kind of that little plot point was supposed to springboard into the Marvels and stuff, and it was just like.
So you ended on Earth being paranoid because we don't know who's a Skrull and who's not.
Now,
and then you go over to Marvels and they're like, oh yeah, just go live in Asgard. Well, whose permission did you get to live here?
And look, but it goes back to what you said with Acolyte and Star Wars, where it's like good writing can clean that up. Hopefully someday down the road they can clean that up so it's all is not lost, because you can all look, comic books do it all the time where it's like, yeah, we fucked up here, but we can clean this shit up here. And I think that's where it comes in at. It's just
but comic could do that in a couple of months. When you gotta you gotta make a year or something like years to make a movie or a year to get a TV show out. That's where you're kind of hurting the that's why some people was like, oh, it happened in the comics. Yeah, it happened in the comics, but lots of weird as one guy said, comics are weird. Thor was a frog in comics at one point. It
took a minute for them to really kind of like clean up certain things that happened in Secret Invasion. Yeah. But like they did it, but it took a while for them to kind of like, all right, we fucked up a little bit in Secret Invasion in the comics, so let's clean up some stuff to kind of like course correct where you fucked up. And yeah.
And I gotta say that's something also I know I'm gonna stop Buzzword, but I think that's something I liked about the Acolyte. I like Marvel has a problem with power scales, and I don't think they really understand their power scales a lot. I don't know if they understand, and because in comics, power scales can vary widely between writers.
Yeah,
but power scaling is really important. In Acolyte, I was afraid they were going to make the witches magic because a lot of these power level stuff was just in George Lucas's head, I think. So it's a really fine balance to not make one faction absurdly more powerful than the other, and they didn't do that there. That Night Sister was turning into a mist demon, and she got killed by a lightsaber. That was
the soul said. Psh, I'm like, well, that kind of deals with that because they could have easily just been like the lightsaber doesn't work and she disappears off and goes somewhere else, and that would have been that. But they were like, oh no, I mean, look,
it took the whole covenant to take over the Wookiee, right? Instead of just one person taking over. Like, sorry, I mean, what you, but like,
I mean, look. I mean, George Lucas shot his shot when he had Mace Windu one shot Jango, and I was like, well, guess Jango really isn't as badass as we thought. I'm fine with this. Look, Jedi Master versus a bounty hunter. Cool.
Yeah,
that makes sense. He could have easily had Jango go one-on-one with Mace, and it would have been even. And I've been like, oh, time.
How does that work? How does that work? So again, I think people need to calm down. I love Star Wars, and if I don't like the new stuff, I can always go back and watch the old stuff. There's like seasons of Clone Wars, there's seasons of Rebels, there's the original trilogy, there's things of comics, there's things like that. So calm down. And if it doesn't work, someone will come along in a couple of years and do it again, and maybe that'll be
work. It's. I mean, look, to your point, even you admit it, and that's something that's funny that fandom never admits. It's like, as much as they adore the expanded universe stuff, I'm like, guys, some of that expanded universe stuff was trash.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that nobody ever wants to admit. I'm like, guys, you're gonna have to admit some of that expanded universe stuff was trash, and y'all never like look. Yes, you critique Disney stuff, but like, don't act as though the expanded universe shit was gold across the board. It's like, nah,
right. And that's what, as you said, they're not. I think you said they're not honest actors. You're not being honest about this stuff, and even admitting your bias. And some of you just want to hate. And no matter what other side you're on, you just want to hate. And I remember when we used to be able to debate sci-fi stuff or who could beat who, or what DC was better than Marvel or Image or Cliffhanger or what Star Trek captain was the best. And it wasn't like you were an evil person or an idiot or just defend your points and go from there. And maybe I'm just old.
Look, we talked our shit about. Look, I remember when Star Trek Enterprise came out, and I was like, the guy from Quantum Leap is the captain? Sure, I guess. I look, to this day, I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck was Enterprise trying to do. Like, I didn't hate it, but it was just one of those, like, it was an anomaly of, like, I can't figure out what you are. Like
somebody... Somebody was talking about, this new Star Trek is not like the golden age of Trek. And they named TNG, DS9, Voyager, and they said Enterprise. I was like, Enterprise? There's some things I like about Enterprise. I watched it again like a couple years ago. But let's not kid ourselves.
I remember when Enterprise dropped, and look, this is like, I won't say pre-internet, but it was like the early message board days. I just remember like, the fandom was just like, what the fuck is this?
The intro was off. The like, they didn't know what they were doing. Then it turned into like a like it was.
I felt Enterprise came at a time where they were like, hey guys, Star Trek. And they thought that they could just, throw a Star Trek show out there and we were going to just eat it up. And I get the vision of what they were doing because it makes sense. Hey, Star Trek was ratings gold. We're coming off Voyager. Cool, fine. And it just, when it hit, you're just like, huh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's like when they did Team Knight Rider and you're like, this isn't Knight Rider.
I forgot about that. That was bad.
So you sit back like, I didn't ask for this. Like,
no one
I
asked
love Knight Rider, but like, I guess. And Voyager was like, that's what made Enterprise the same way. It's like, I didn't really ask for this Star Trek, but sure,
We're going
I
in the
guess.
past. I don't really care about the past. I've been in the past. I lived in the past. Oh, you're ignoring the only black main character. Oh, that does go in the past.
Like, I guess it's like
yo, yo, yo. And like I said, and you can like some things. I've never met anybody that Enterprise was their favorite Star Trek, but I'm sure they're out there.
nobody ever says the Star Trek. Look, I saw people get revisionist history like, hey man, I'd rather watch Enterprise than Discovery. I'm like, you're sure about that? Because I'll watch Discovery before I even touch Enterprise. That's where I stand at with Enterprise. It's like, I don't know, man. Like Discovery got issues, but I'll still watch Discovery. Hell, I'll watch the new Star Trek that's coming out with old girl Michelle Yeoh's character.
Oh yeah, Section 31.
Yeah, Section 31. I'll watch that in a heartbeat. Like that shit look pretty dope.
Like I went through all the Star Treks a couple years ago, and I think I was like, I gotta get to the Enterprise.
I need to rewatch Deep Space Nine now.
Yeah, I think that's on my watch list coming up this year. I kind of want to talk about it, just like talk about the seasons as I finish the seasons. Just go up and just talk.
There's a guy on YouTube. He does I think his name is Lore Runner, and he actually does talks on every episode of I think he finished the TNG series, and I think he finished I don't know if he finished Deep Space Nine. He was also doing Voyager, but he talks every episode, and I'm like, damn, he's really going deep. It's like 30-40 minute videos and stuff where he talks about the episodes and stuff, like the highs and lows. I was like, damn, this is actually pretty good.
That's cool. I saw these guys on Instagram. They're newbie Treks, where they're these people have just never gone through Trek before, and they went through TNG and they got the DS9, and they've noticed things now in HD that in TNG and things like that I've never been picked up on. Yeah. So I kind of want to look at these shows again from my eyes now and absorb this now, because I think it's really easy to look back and only remember the good stuff of things we loved, and not realize that everything we loved is not you ever go back to some series you loved as a kid and go like, oh, this was trash. I loved it, but it was straight trash.
I'll give a good example before we go off. During the pandemic, I watched 21 Jump Street and I watched In the Heat of the Night. Now, I remember In the Heat of the Night had some DVD. Not directed DVD. They had the made for TV movies that was a continuation of the series, but I never wondered what made it continue to that point. So I got to the later season In the Heat of the Night, and I started noticing something's off here. And obviously one of the lead guys, I forgot, Howard Rollins, he left the show because he was dealing with drug issues and all that stuff. And I know when he left and then Carl Weathers came on, it was interesting with his character coming on as the new sheriff and stuff. But the drama of the show kind of fell off a little bit to me because it didn't hit the same way as the earlier seasons of In the Heat of the Night. Same with 21 Jump Street. I still enjoyed the show, but the later seasons of 21 Jump Street was just kind of you kind of felt like it was starting to kind of gas out a bit, and stuff. And I'm like, But we look fondly on those shows oh man, it was great. I'm like, yeah, it's still good, but it was kind of petering out a bit,
That happened to me recently. I don't have cable anymore. I just go to extreme stuff. Yeah. So the TV's channels that come with your TV, sometimes one of them was playing 21 Jump Street 24 hours a day. So I catching episodes of different and I was because I remember as a kid, I remember the hype. I remember the hype of 21 and then them being the bullies in school, Johnny Depp and the other guy going in, then Louise's nephew or whatever. Yeah. But then you watch them, some of this was bad. This was
another show I need to actually, if I could find it online, Alienation, because I remember
I was thinking that when you were talking, I was thinking that
I need to watch that show to see who has it on streaming and if I could rewatch it, because I remember that show doing some really good things, and I think they did some movies to continue the show, because I think the show had ended and they did the movies to kind of continue it.
I feel like you just read my mind. When you were talking about those two shows, I was like, oh, yeah, because Alienation, the only thing I can ever find is the movie. And I don't remember the movie as a kid. I know the movie happened, but it doesn't have the same actors in it.
I think they switched the main human actor, but they kept the actor who played the alien.
George.
Yeah, they kept him for the TV show because obviously you can't.
Yeah,
Michael Caine. You don't have enough money on the TV budget to keep Michael Caine, so you got to get somebody else that's lesser.
And I remember as a kid, like I think it only had one, maybe two, but I think one season. And
no,
like
Alienation. No, the Alienation had how many seasons?
Maybe I'm wrong. I know it had like a bunch, but like maybe 3 TV movies, maybe 4.
Hold up, back up. You know why I'm saying? Hold up. Because I'm looking up right now. I could have sworn. Oh, you're right. Yeah, because they only had one season, but they did the TV movies to kind of keep it going. So they had 5. Yeah, they had 5 TV movies.
Oh, dang! I didn't know it was 5 TV.
22 episodes and 5 TV movies, which is actually pretty good considering.
Yeah.
So,
but it's also back in the day when you had the TV miniseries like V and all that, and Merlin and stuff like that. So 5 movies for a show that gets canceled is pretty good. You know what? If you ever find where it's at, I will do a watch.
Amazon Prime, you're charging, but I'm pretty sure I can probably find it on like some bootleg site or whatever. They'll probably have it.
If you ever want to do a watch discussion about Alienation, it'll be like 3 of us that'll know anything about it, but I'm here with you.
If we do, I need to bring William on because William's another guy. Like he does like nostalgia podcasts and stuff because he just did an episode with somebody else on their podcast about Saved by the Bell, the new class. I had no idea that show had 7 seasons.
What? No, it didn't. 7.
Did I dead ass? I was like, hold on, let's see. Yeah, it had like 7 seasons, I believe.
God dang!
I didn't know that. I was like,
yeah, 7 canceled after 1
7 seasons, 143 episodes. I'm like, bro, I did not know that. I'm like, dog, I thought that shit had like 3 seasons and they just
deaded it. Well, good for those actors. I'm glad they got that check.
Look, man. Congrats to them.
I'm totally down for that. If you ever want to do something like that, let me know. I'll get on it too. You know, something else that I kind of want to rewatch, but I'm afraid to, is some old cartoons like the Saturday morning Sonic Adventures, the one when they were rebels. And I know that something's going to be terrible. I want to rewatch Captain N, the Game Master, which I'm sure is going to be a terrible.
I think the Sonic one, that came out on DVD.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I forgot what company did it, but it came out on DVD. You can buy the whole series.
I might do that because I know the Archie comics are based on that one. They're based on that.
Because they had Sonic Underground came out on DVD, and then the one with the 3 Sonic kids.
I never watched that one. They were musicians or something, right?
Yeah, it was that one came out on DVD too. And then they have the other one, The New Adventures of Sonic, which is the hijinks one. Tails.
Yeah, the one I liked was the one that was like it was like it had that cool ass intro.
Yeah, Sonic Underground was the one that was like dark, and that's the one that everybody knows. But the New Adventures of Sonic was more like wacky hijinks.
Yeah, I remember that. So yeah, but yeah, I'm down for the Alienation thing. I can't believe you were thinking about that when I was thinking about that. And I'd love to rewatch that show and those movies.
Look, but that's like I said, nothing's off the table. But anyways, folks, thanks for listening into this, and I think this might reinvigorate me to do more. Look, after this, I feel with them popping up that new trailer for the 2nd season of Lord of Rings, Rings of Power, that might make me revisit that show and really talk about that. Because I remember you mentioning, like, again, much like the Acolyte, there's bones here, but what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And like I said, I think me and you talked, I was like, maybe I'm not seeing this, or maybe I need to rewatch it again to really see what you mean by like, there's something off with this.
Yeah, I think it's something off. But I'm going to watch the new one. Like I said, if you want to talk about the new one and rewatch it, I get the complaints with some things, but I also get like, I just feel like I see sometimes what they're going for. And I think like
Rings of Power is the one that was like, I'm not going to argue with any Lord of the Rings fans because maybe they definitely know something that I'm not seeing. Because I just watch Lord of the Rings and just watch it for what it is. So I'm not deep in the lore. So I just take the word of people that watch Lord of the Rings and know the lore at their word when it comes to Rings of Power. And I'm like, well, maybe rewatch it and maybe I will understand.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, and I'll stop with this because I know we've been going on for a minute.
But, we're good.
for a long time, you only had these certain bastions of nerddom for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think people have become so in love and ingrained with something like that, it becomes a religion in a way. I think Lord of the Rings is one of those things. There's whole people who dedicated their lives to dissecting Lord of the Rings
Oh yeah,
and the works of that.
it's a
And
religion.
so, yeah, and I think if you come from a purist standpoint, like yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Why are these people here? Why are these people here? Obviously, people break down. This couldn't possibly be the route they take because you'd have to go through this town.
See, that's where I'm like, hey, time out, guy, my dudes. It's a fictional story. Just let it rock.
Yeah, and it's a testament to Tolkien, right? Because Tolkien cared enough about languages and map. That was his passion.
I mean,
right?
because he had maps in those books. Like, so
Yeah.
I kind of, so it's just I sit there and say, hey, dude, let it go. It's a show. It's like, no, I get it because you bought into like, hey, you drew maps of what this looked like, and it's like, all right, cool, I get it, totally understand.
There's a woman at my previous job who she's a closet geek, so she doesn't let anybody notice she likes anime, but she's a super Scooby-Doo fan. Like so she could break down what era of Scooby-Doo this is, who was the writer, why this fell off. Well, you would never she looked like a bad bitch, but you would never, you would never. That was a bad batch joke earlier, people. You would never notice she was into this, but she could break all this down.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I was into Scooby-Doo when I was a kid. And she's like, oh, da 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 da. And I was like, yeah. And she's, oh, watch Mystery Inc. You're gonna like this. And like, have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet? And I was like, all right, I'm watching. I was like, okay, it was good. And I think we all have our. Well, I say it to say that when Velma came out, she thought it was blasphemy, right? She was like, this is for everything I hear about it, it's blasphemy. I haven't.
Oh, it is. It's the same issues where it's like I get what you're doing, but it feels like you're trying too hard to kind of like act as though there was some issues with the original Scooby-Doo when it wasn't. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you didn't have to like, you know, do that and stuff. I get like, especially when you have Venture Brothers, which did better Scooby-Doo jokes than this. So it's kind of like
I tried to get her to watch. I tried to get her to watch Venture Brothers. She said no, it wasn't for her. And I was like, you would.
No, that's fair. I mean, look, that movie that came out, that book ended the show was actually really good.
I was so excited about that. She sent that to me. She's like, is this what you're into? Like, oh, they came up with the ending? I was like, very happy about it. But I said to say this is that people have their passions, right?
Yeah.
But you have to realize that everybody doesn't have your same passion, and some people just want a good show. Like some people just want to be entertained for the hour of time they give this stuff, and they don't care about the maps and the lore and the songs and the dates and the and all the other stuff. And both are valid, right?
Like,
if this is your
100%.
jam, and you talk to people that's your jam, and your passion and everything, but it was also people just casual and watchers of stuff. Understand that they don't care. Like Keanu Mundy wasn't born for 30 more years or whatever. That doesn't even register them. They just want to be entertained for the 30 minutes of their lives they're given to this, when they could be sleeping, eating, or other things.
But anyways, I appreciate you jumping on this. This was a very entertaining Star Wars episode and such. Really kind of get into everything, and definitely got to do this again. So we will catch you guys later. Peace out.